Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Real Truth Call. Today, again, is Tuesday. Oh, my goodness. It is the 28th of November. We shall certainly rise up on the 2018 quickly here because time has speeded up again, once again. So, therefore, we are quickly having shorter days and shorter nights, even though the clock says 24 hours, it appears and feels like it's about 8 or less because that's how fast time is traveling. So we are all traveling right along with time. So anybody say they're not a time traveler, you're still asleep. Because if you just look at the clock and take 5 steps forward and look at the clock again, a minute has passed. Oh, my goodness. So for all of you that have sent emails that is sending information over asking about the med beds and all of those healing things, I don't have it, okay? However, for those of you that are sending information asking for Jared to have it, he instructed me to put all of those people's information on the spreadsheet and then send it to him, which I have not done because they're coming in like droves every day. So once it slows down, you're not going to get that technology until down the road anyway, after the exchange takes place and things settle down and the new republic is truly visible and in place. So go ahead and send your emails over so you can get on the list. Okay? All right. Just put in your subject, med bed or healing bed or whatever you want to put in there. I'm getting some of both. So make sure you go ahead and put that information in there as well. Okay. Jared?
Yes, I'm here.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing wonderfully well, thank you. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful, thank you. So I didn't get a response back from your text. I might have texted to your landline. I'm not sure. So I did not send out the tweet. But okay. I can go ahead and open up the other line and send it out now. Okay?
That's fine.
Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about the history of humanity, correct?
Yep.
Okay, well, you can go ahead and get started, and I'm going to open up the other line and then send out the tweet so that we can get it will fill up quick, I'm sure. Okay, go ahead. You can go ahead and get started.
Right. Well, hello, everybody. It's been a little bit. It's been hectic out there. A lot going on. And wanted to just cover a couple of subjects that I touched on last call. And when we were talking about the history of the human race and why we are where we're at right now and what transpired to get us here. And basically we're a combination of several different DNAs from, let's see, five different off-worlder civilizations, and they put the best of their DNA into the pot, so to speak, to create us. And I guess you could call us, if we got over the fact of being in human form, pretty much immortal spiritual beings. And we unfortunately aren't aware of that, and we get too tied down to the physical form, and that's why it's so difficult for us to make the transition to any form that we choose. I mean, could you imagine if the human race was at a level of understanding that the physical form is just something that we take on, that we choose to take on? And, I mean, if you wanted to be a blade of grass, you could be a blade of grass. If you want to be a tree, you can be a tree. And the process that's kind of taken us a while to comprehend is that there really isn't anything such as death. It's a word that probably shouldn't even be used. It's just transition is probably more appropriate, that we transition from one level of existence to the next, and we continue on and on and on and on and on. And with the Pleiadians, the Sirians, the Andromedans, just to name a few of the civilizations that have participated in our creation, and along with the Anunnaki with their genetic abilities, the reason that we do have an aggressive tendency that's embedded in our DNA, and it's an aggressive gene, and that's why we're so easily excited, that we have a tendency to become agitated and aggressive, basically. You know, where a guy will get in an argument, pull out a gun, and cause harm to another. And that can be controlled or adjusted with the right education as far as the human race is concerned. Obviously, we're moving toward an avenue of peace and prosperity, and doing unto others as we would like done unto ourselves, and loving each other unconditionally. And I think that's where we kind of get a little hazy on the word unconditional, which means that if you feel anger, turn the anger into some form of love and attention towards others. Because as you can well know in our history, our short history, our unconditional love isn't there. We a lot of the times become angry and confrontational when we should be paying attention to each other, servicing each other, and being in servitude. Now you can picture the human race, and you look at the wars that we've been involved with throughout the generations. And in all honesty, I'm sure all of you would agree that the wars have done nothing but damage and destroy and cause a lot of pain and heartache and just nothing but destruction, anger, and frustration. And working together as one, as the human race working together as one, we could change the entire planet practically overnight. And that's why I've really pushed and worked on for quite a few years the level where you can have 1% squared of the human race, the human population on planet Earth, which is about 7,800, give or take a few. With that, instead of concentrating on the currencies and all of those applications and fixating on that, instead of doing that, concentrating on how you would visualize the entire planet and the human race, how you would like to see it. And since there's such a diversity, I just don't think you should dictate to people on what their vision should be, but what they perceive or how they see the planet and how they see the human race and how they want it to be. You know, some people want a pink flowered tree, other people want a white flowered tree. But the idea is to get the thought process into the direction of creating this harmony. And, that's what we are. We're creators. And all of the information that you could possibly want, and as you well know, a lot of information comes and goes and things don't occur and they don't happen because the cycles are so quick to change, is that if you believe that you can change the planet and humanity for a better direction, you'll be able to do it. but we need the numbers of people to consistently commit the time that's needed in order to create that. And that's where it's always been a challenge for the most part. Once in a while you can get a large group of people together and have the committal of time to do a meditation for the planet and human race. But see, we have to have it for a point of consistency where every week, 2 to 3 times a week, wherever people are, they don't have to get on a phone call or anything, but wherever they are, they get to a space where they can actually concentrate in a loving way and meditate on the planet, on Earth, on the human race, and benevolence and kindness and love and caring. And to do that on a consistent basis, we would start seeing changes very quickly. And that hasn't been accomplished, I'll just put it that way, not on a consistent scale, because it takes so much time and effort to organize, and people are so busy and they have a lot of things on their plates, and then they just don't get around to it, unfortunately. And we have to become proactive as a civilization to help change the direction of things. And it basically takes a commitment. When we were created and actually placed in the cradle of humanity, which they call Southeastern Africa, and we basically did slave work for the Anunnaki. And this, you can check this out. You can check this information out whenever you want. Just get online, start digging, and you'll find this information. You just have to type in Anunnaki and humanity, slave race, and you'll get all kinds of information. But what happened to us is that we became a slave civilization, and we mined the gold for the Anunnaki. They did genetic manipulation on a consistent basis for a very long time on the planet while they were pretty much running things. And we became very attracted to gold, and that's why we are today so attracted to gold. Henceforth, we're going back to a gold standard monetary system on the planet. And that's why we revere gold so much, and we have gold necklaces and gold rings. And, throughout humankind, you can just take a look at history. We have had that attention for that metal over any other metal. And that's pretty much why. Because in the beginning, there were only 600 of them. And so they had to create us to do the work for them because they didn't have enough of them to carry out the work for the gold. And so when you mine the gold and then you vaporize it, atomize the gold, and you spray it up into your atmosphere, and their planet's atmosphere was damaged, and the atomized gold was the best way to heal it, to heal the atmosphere. And so we continued to do that for a very long time. And the Anunnaki females, since at the time there was only Adama, and Adama was the male species of us, and so they had Adama impregnate the Anunnaki females, and the Anunnaki females were barefoot and pregnant on a continual basis. And so they kept creating more Adamas. And eventually, the Anunnaki females got tired of carrying the babies and made a very strong request that the geneticists would formulate Eva, a female. Well, they tried it several times, and at first it didn't work. And eventually they got the right formula, and Eva was created, and we had Adama and Eva. And so then the wellspring of the human race started populating, and We had Adama and Eva. As if you look back in history, you'll find information that states that we all came from the same source. We came from the same two people, if you go way back and connect us all. And that's why we're all connected and we're all one. And we're all one big family. But we have been taught to be separated, to feel separated, to feel segregated. And we should be integrated and spend more time together. That's why so many people, and it's a proven fact, that if you have a mate, you live longer than when you don't have a mate. And if you are a social person and you socialize a lot with people, you live longer. You're happier. People that keep to themselves end up having more physical ailments and problems and mental issues. That's because we are meant to be together, to work together. That's why there's so many lonely people on the planet, because so many of us don't know how to come together in a relationship, so to speak, because there's so much diversity that's been taught to so many of us, and it's become so confusing that we lose sight of the fact of who we really are. And you can imagine that throughout history, and of course this isn't prevalent, it's not put out there, and it should be. It should be put out there for the entire human race to read and absorb and take what they want from it, leave the rest behind. Anything that vibrates with them. It's like anything that vibrates with you that you're reading or you're looking at or you're reviewing information. There are certain things that draw you, that you might come across a book and you feel compelled to get the book. And you might get that book and you might read 2 pages and that'll be all you need. And then you'll put the book down. But there's certain things that draw us, and it's our higher sense and our higher selves that communicate with us on what we should be reviewing, reading, learning. And as a human race that we are, instead of destroying, we should be building. And building, I mean by exploring and leaving the planet and going out into the solar system and the galaxy, colonizing Class M planets. Because if you look at our roots, okay, we were basically raised to be a slave species. And look at us today. Would you think that we are still a slave species? In a lot of ways, unknowingly, we are, because we're controlled in a lot of ways that we're just not educated about. We're not informed. We're lied to and deceived on a continual basis. And that's probably why there's so many people that are angry or irritated a lot of the times. So when you have a civilization such as ours, because there's many out there, and you have a planet, and the planet can only provide so much space and natural resources to provide for the human race. After a while, it becomes overpopulated. When you become overpopulated, then you look at some of the movies where people are living in cars and all kinds of things because they've run out of space. You run out of space, and you run out of food, and you run out of a lot of things, then you end up with anarchy, and you end up with a broken society and a major struggle to survive on the surface of the planet. And we're already really getting close to 2 billion over the sustainable population of planet Earth. Planet Earth can sustain comfortably 6 billion, and of course we're approaching 8 billion. And it's just going to continually grow exponentially from this day forward as more and more people. Now the only good way is to get off planet and to colonize other planets, other Class M planets. And as some of you have probably seen, they lately, over the last couple of years, have been coming out with discovery of Class M planets in different solar systems. Not that really, comparatively speaking, that far from us. And so when you look at it from the context of saying, how do we get there? Because everybody's been taught that we just have rocket power, and that, to get to a place, it takes quite a long time just to get in, to another planet in our solar system. Now, the strange thing is that we have the technology that we haven't been given to use that can get us through our solar system in a matter of minutes, and can get us to other Class M planets in a matter of hours. And the anti-gravitic power systems is the propulsion system to have ships be able to eventually take humans to other planets for colonization. And I'm sure there's a lot of humans that wouldn't mind doing that. Now, this is much better than some of the dark agendas attitudes with their agendas is basically murdering 90% of the population of planet Earth and keeping about, 500 million around to serve them. Again, back into the slavery role, which is just not going to happen because the timeline has changed. See, at one time there was a timeline situated that was going to go that way, where the human race was going to be plunged deep in darkness and slavery control and a very, very unpleasant existence. Timeline was changed on purpose for a better outcome. And people say, well, why can't it be changed back? Because it cannot. Because those of the highest power have deemed it so. And this is just the time for the transition for us to go from a carbon-based existence in our bodies to a crystalline-based existence. And it doesn't mean that we're going to turn into glass. It just means that our molecular structure and makeup of the human body will go more crystalline than it is right now in a carbon base, because we have a different vibrational frequency that's taking place on planet Earth. We're going from a third-dimensional vibrational energy to a fifth-dimensional vibrational energy. So people are being tugged and pulled, and they have pains they never knew had. They have worries, anxieties, stress issues that they normally didn't have before. And this has been happening over the course of the last handful of years in a much more intense direction. So when you have all these things happening and you've got people struggling like as if they've never struggled that much before, and you've got confusion, and you've got people misunderstanding things, and you've got anger, and you just frustration, and on top of that, you've got a vibrational frequency changing on the planet. I mean, the Schumann resonance is almost, I think, doubled or tripled over the course of the last couple of years on the planet. And you can look up the Schumann resonance, and it'll give you a whole rundown on what the Schumann resonance is. Everything is a vibrational frequency. And a vibrational frequency means that everything is moving and everything has energy. Our bodies are moving, our spirits are moving. You can touch a piece of wood, it's moving. Everything moves at a different vibrational frequency. Nothing is solid. Everything is fluid. And it'd probably be good if people start to understand that, because what we think about, what we create is what we think about, and we don't really realize that. And a lot of people don't believe it because they just think that it doesn't. I've never seen or experienced that happening. Now, if you understand that we are actually immortal beings and housed in a expendable physical form, and we are creators, and our biggest power that we possess is our thought. And that's why the governments on the planet, and that's why Anunnaki and we have always been able to be controlled, our thoughts controlled for the most part, usually by fear and intimidation. So you imagine that you can think and create things, like in the course of today and what's happening on our planet, and the pollution, and that doesn't get out there in the open much. It's not discussed much. You know, the subject of the revaluation of global currency reset is all-consuming for those that are awake. A lot of awakened people are viewing that and looking at that, obviously, for good reasons, for the monetary reform and what it means for people to help people, and all positive things for the most part. And when you look at the planet and the condition of our planet right now, and you look at the population, and you look at the ecosystem, and you look at the several 100,000 square miles of floating plastic islands and animals beaching themselves and suffocating because they fill their stomachs up with plastic, and all the pollution, and where is it all going? All the garbage, all the pollution that we produce as a species is either being pumped into the ocean or it's stuck in the ground. And all of that ends up in our water. And we're being bombarded by the water, the food, the air, the soil, on a continual basis. So we're becoming toxic dumps. And that's why we have so many people interested in the medbed, because that's a real simple process. And I believe it or not, there are people that don't want to do it. They want to watch other people go through the process 2, 3, 4 times before they lay in the bed itself and have the procedure done, because they don't trust the fact that it's going to do what it's supposed to do. They don't want to get harmed, which is pretty much normal. And then I have other people that say they don't care, they'll be first in line. And that's just one technology that's been kept from us, from the people of planet Earth. And, yeah, you can get angry about it, and it doesn't do any good. We're going to have that technology amongst several others. We've got probably around 7,000-8,000 new technologies that'll be new to us that we'll be able to incorporate in human society. And obviously, since we're overpopulated already, we've got to figure out a way to get so many people off the planet and balance the population growth in a kind way, in a respectful way. So by thinking in creative thought, in harmony, where those that are awake, which are you folks that come to this call, and there's people at other calls, and organizing with the different, letting out all the call moderators that run calls come together in a peaceful harmony and work together to create the awakened people and help do the thought creation for the human race, for our brothers and sisters, and the planet. Unification is phenomenal. Having people work together. The problem is that we have a thing called ego. And ego, as we all know, because we've all experienced it at times, that little voice that comes in, leaders want to be leaders, so they don't like following. So when you bring a bunch of leaders together and you bring a bunch of folks that are awakened together, all the leaders want to lead. But you can do it in a unified fashion where each person has an assignment to do a certain thing, and you can gather everybody together to perform these, I guess for better choice of words, creative thought sessions. And all you're doing is you're viewing the planet and humanity in a peaceful and kind setting. Wherever there are troubles, wherever there is something going awry, or whether it be Washington, D.C., whether it be London, England, no matter where it's at, we keep track of what's going on the planet, and we send that creative thought, love, light energy, to those areas for a period of time. And we always have the sessions that brings everybody together and that everybody works together in a harmonious type of a setting, which allows others to interact that normally wouldn't because of, well, people attacking each other, and which is just a total waste of time. Instead of that, it's coming together and working together, because we're going to have to figure out a way as a civilization to work together. We're just going to have to do that. We cannot continue being so separated and kind of like we're against each other at certain times because of what's going on in our lives and everything. I don't think it's really intentional. I just think that if we come together, and people have tried this before. It's not something new, as you well know. Tried to get people together, but when you're relentless and you've seen it actually work, then it kind of reinforces to get it going, to get it working. All the projects that everybody on this line wants to do and have committed to doing, along with knowing that your creative thought can do so much good and is so powerful, why not use it? Why not use it for everybody? It's like, how many people on this call could honestly look themselves in the mirror and say, I am here from this day forward to be in servitude to humanity. I am here to do whatever I can to serve humanity. That's to help others when they need help, provide for others when they need provisions, whatever it may be, but I am here to be in servitude to humanity. Now, if you can look yourself in the mirror and honestly say that from your heart center, then you're ahead of the whole ballgame. Because there's not a whole heck of a lot of folks that can do that and really follow through with it. There's a lot of people that can say it, but actually following through with it. So we have exercise where folks will go and they will do that commitment to themselves, and then they will put a list together of people that they would like to serve. In other words, help. You don't walk up to them and say, hey, I'm going to serve you. You list people that you can help in your neighborhood or your community, or even on the phone, people that you know. This is where we're headed in our civilization. You're going to see governments fade away. There won't be governments. And you're going to see unification of the human race, where everybody will end up coming together and working together. It doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter what you have. All that matters is that you work together and work together in harmony. Some people say, well, that's wishful thinking. That's just, we're just not built that way. It's a doable thing. It takes time, obviously, but you have to practice, and practice makes perfect. And we're in that window of time for us to decide on what do we want to do. Are we committed to serve humanity for as long as we're here, and to teach others to serve humanity? And visually create and picture that setting however you wish for the human race and for the planet. You don't like the pollution in the ocean. Think and visualize it being gone. And how can that happen? An invention can surface by your thought creation in different ways. And the next thing you know, the debris is being eliminated in the oceans. Now, we have some of that going on now that's behind the scenes that's happening, that the oceans are slowly being cleaned up. Not a lot of emphasis is spent, and I'm sure you all agree, is that what's happening to our environment, going on with our environment. What's all this geoengineering that's going on? Why is that happening? And you, every one of you, are the masters. You're in control, and once you realize that, you can eliminate all of these problems that exist. Eliminate a lot of things that are happening. And the confidence factor gets more and more as you start following that direction, and you start becoming more educated, you start becoming more aware, and a lot of things happen, and you start blossoming. Because the one-up that you have is that you're awake, and you know a lot more things than the majority of people out there. And so if you're awake, you can comprehend many things that most people that are asleep can't. And it's all going to be up to you guys, to us. It's going to be up to us. It already is. So when you see something that you don't like, you know, it says, I'd like to see it this way. Or I'd like to see that garbage and trash all gone and beautiful trees here. Or I'd like to see that lake clean. Those are the thoughts to get in the habit of doing that. What you're doing is you're creating what you're thinking. All of the energies are at play. So, you know, you might look at that spot in a month or so and it's completely changed. Now, the finances are being handled. Those are coming here very shortly. So, you know, there's not going to be, you won't be in a position of lack of. You'll be in a position of a lot. Doesn't it make sense to have the abundance and you're already thinking in the direction of creating and serving humanity? That takes humbleness. You know, you have to take you take the ego and maybe put it on vacation or leave it at the door when you get with a group of people. And I've learned more by listening than I ever have by speaking. Learning how to listen is a valuable asset. And when you can get into that level of understanding, which some of you probably are at that level, and you intensify it, and then every week have a group of people that keeps growing, where you do the visualization of the planet, human race. And I guarantee you, there's no way that won't make a difference on this planet. It will do magnificent things, and some of the things you won't even see. But eventually things will start surfacing. And you'll say, you know something? My thoughts were in that direction. Look what's happened, as well as other people's. Together, we can literally solve all the current disastrous situations on planet Earth. That should be a huge motivating factor for all of us, that we could come together and we can rectify all of this carnage that's taken place for so many generations on the planet, where no one starves, no one, you know, has to drink water out of a gully that they wash in and they defecate in, and they have to drink the same water that they do all that in, because to them, you know, they have to have water. Where no one goes without a home, a place to lay their head on a pillow, No one goes without clean, healthy food. And that's when you start thinking in those terms and directions, it's immediate creation. As long as you don't, in thought process, negate it by negative thoughts or impatient thoughts. But the reason I'm keying in on thought process, because that's what it is. That's what everything is about here on this planet. It's about thought. Everything is about thought. You've come across people that, in your travels, that say, I think I have a cloud, dark cloud over me. Everything goes wrong. I've tried everything. It just doesn't work. And they're always worried about money, and they're always stressing, and they're always fearing, and they're always stressing, and they're always fearing. And then eventually they can't figure out why they keep getting and attracting the same problems, the same things. Lack of. Because that's how they think. They got into that void of lack of thinking. And that's their whole life is pretty much is about lack of. And all they have to do is change that thinking, their thought. And it starts to send out messages to the universe as, hey, I have abundance. I have prosperity. I can help a lot of people. I can do a lot of good things. And I'm sure you agree, doing good feels really good. When you do things that aren't too good, they don't feel too good. But the giving aspect, giving to others, is a tremendous feeling. And it's interesting how many people that you talk with, if you had $2 to your name, you saw somebody that was in need, what would you do? Some people say, I'd give them the $2. Other people say, I'd give them $1. It's being unselfish and giving to your fellow brothers and sisters of the human race. And I think that there's so much worry and stress, financial, with many people. And we all know that goes on. That's happened for years and years and years on the planet. But it gets intensified because a lot of hope and belief mechanisms and waiting for something to happen, and it doesn't happen, and things keep changing and flicking and switching, and and it gets frustrating and it gets irritating, and then it causes you to get angry, and then those angry thoughts start festering, and they start expanding, and then you question things, and you start having heated discussions with yourself and from a higher source, and things start developing. They start appearing and happening. When is this going to happen? And I can't believe this is taking so long, and this is never going to happen. Is this real or isn't it real? I'm beginning to wonder, and that type of thing. When all along, the leftover of the dark agenda they want everyone to feel helpless and to feel angry and to feel just genuinely ticked off, to put it lightly. And so the more people that they can get believing that, this isn't going to happen, this isn't something that's going to happen, whatever it may be, then they keep winning. And then a lot of people get miserable, and they feel affected. So picture where we are right now, and picture the Anunnaki and how they created us, and then take us to today. Because that was a few 100,000 years ago. There have been civilizations on this planet that have come and gone, and they've covered it up. So we wouldn't know. We wouldn't have any history. Doesn't it sound strange to you that they give you the idea of the caveman, Neanderthal, Australopithecus, and so on and so forth, and then they have the missing link, which is us. They can't figure out how to connect us in that missing link. And, for us to believe that we, eventually invented the wheel and then invented fire and then we went on from there. If you take a civilization and you wipe its memory and they don't have any clue of where they came from or who they really are, you can basically do anything. You can create any existence for that civilization so that they don't remember who they are and where they came from. So you look at today and where we're at, okay, we still, for the most part, value gold. We still value gold. That's why we're putting all of our currencies on a hard asset, an actual real material asset support system. Because gold to us is stable and it's valuable, period. And whenever we've usually had a gold system, it keeps things pretty good, pretty balanced. If you have a transparent system, you're able to watch things and make sure that no one does anything derogatory, bad. So we still have some of those things that our ancestors had of the gold and, people mining gold and wearing gold and, the color, the sparkles, and so on and so forth, still mesmerizing. It still connects us to where we came from. So now we're in a position to step over into a higher vibrational frequency, which we're doing now. We have all this wealth and abundance that's getting ready to flood a minority, I'll put it that way, minority of humans, that will have a responsibility of servitude for the rest of their natural-born lives. Now, you wonder how many people feel comfortable about that. They feel good about that. Now, there's not many people that have lived the life of servitude. You'll see some like Mother Teresa and some of the others throughout history that actually were in servitude to humanity. And that's what it means. And some people say this isn't about the money and it's not about the wealth and abundance and everything. It's more about servitude. It's serving your fellow brothers and sisters and humankind and coming together and growing in harmony, developing a harmony amongst each other. So now imagine that all the money problems are out of the way and people are doing equal distribution to their brothers and sisters with financial assistance, and eventually, as it reaches across the planet, nobody is not well off. Everybody is well off. There's no more lack of. So money then becomes like no big deal. Alice and Bill down the street are well off. But that doesn't mean they don't need help. Okay? So the servitude continues. And imagine, as we grow as a people, that we get in that habit of doing that. That's part of our day, is to assist or help another. And there will always be those that will need help. So just because the money is removed doesn't mean they won't need help. The lack of's gone. And then we look at health. How many people do you know in your circles of influence, how many people do you know that are ailing health-wise, that have health problems? How many of us worry about health issues? How many of us are scared to death to go into the allopathic system? And I'm talking, to all of you that are awake, that pursue alternatives, alternative applications, alternative medicines. Now imagine removing that. So the health issues are gone. So you got lack of gone, lack of, the finances is taken care of. You got the health issues are gone. And then you have aging, where some people don't want to get old. They want to stay young. And other people say, you know what, I'm just going to grow old and pass in normal time, and that's it. And that just depends on how people think and how they feel. So you remove those things from society. Yes, and it's not going to happen overnight. And all of us will have to pitch in to get certain things out, to get them manufactured, to get them applied to other people. I mean, even going into the Congo and in different parts of Africa and in different tribes and villages, to get staffing and people out there to get this technology circulated and to protect it, so that the baddies, because there's still going to be baddies out there. They're not going to be able to clean them all up. There's going to be some in crevices and cracks hiding here and there that'll pop up. And, we'll be prepared. We'll have to be prepared for that. But in a responsible fashion, imagine and creative thinking, those things are getting ready to be introduced to the human race. And can you imagine what that will do with responsible masters working in servitude of the human race? Because there's a lot of learned people on this call. There's a lot of people that have a lot of insight. I wish that a lot of the quiet people that have so much knowledge and experience would start voicing that from the standpoint of doing little editorials and stuff on the different blogs. There's a handful of people that do, but I know there's so many people out there that have so much they could share to enlighten all of us. And I sense it all the time. I sense it in groups of people out in public. I mean, there's just so many people, and I don't know if they're afraid or they're afraid they're going to get rebutted. But that goes with the territory. People aren't going to agree with a lot of the things. They're going to question things. But to get that information out, and I'm not talking about ridiculing other people, cutting other people down, questioning their validity. I'm talking about sharing thoughts, and there we go back to the thoughts again, sharing thoughts with your fellow brothers and sisters. Because, these other blog people and people that have put organizations together and stuff, they don't have all the answers. That's why we need all of you, every single one of you, because you all have ideas, you have experiences, and I get almost giddy about the thought of having people open up, because I've sat in sessions with 12 different countries, up in the mountains of Nice, France, and parliament members and stuff, and watch them in a relaxed environment and see what comes out of them. It's just amazing. But we don't seem to have that synergy as a people. How many times have you lived next door neighbor, an apartment or condo and everything, and they're there for 10 years, you don't know them. You never even see each other. Years ago, in our country, we had a thing called welcome wagons. And I grew up on military bases, so that was really prevalent. And this was back in the 50s and 60s. And you'd have a group of women, feminine energy, come over with baskets and food and different items that they would make to welcome you into the neighborhood. Now, I know that there are some isolated areas in America that people will do that. I haven't had anybody give me a report on the last time that's happened, but I'm sure there is. But imagine having that type of thing come back, where you have a neighbor move in down the street, say, "Hi, my name is Joyce. This is my husband, Bill, and we'd like to welcome you to our neighborhood." People have become so frightened and fearful of interacting with each other that they become recluse almost from their neighbors. Unless something really bad happens, and then it pulls everybody together, like floods and different hurricanes and that type of thing. Because if we're able to come together, and it's so important right now to start moving in that direction, because so much is getting ready to happen, and you guys are going to comprehend it much better than the majority. You're going to comprehend it much better. You're going to understand it much better. You will be the calm that a lot of folks are going to need. You're going to be a multifaceted person, a human being, not person, but human being. And you're going to help a lot of people. And you're going to have all of the vehicles, all the tools given to you. And you're going to be able to wield that power, because it is a power, of creative thought and helping others. And at the same time, on top of that, protecting yourself, being humble, not being out in the open, because you're going to carry a lot of wealth. You carry massive amounts of wealth. And nothing, as I've said before, nothing's going to change outside of you. There's going to be these, not so nice people, the ones that are still asleep. So it's almost like it's a science that you're going to be a part of. It's almost going to be like a scientific application, because on one hand you're going to be managing and having others help you manage vast amounts of wealth, and on the other hand you're going to be protected, and you're going to have to know how to operate and how to help others and how to do it quietly, and you're going to have a lot of things going on. And doesn't it make sense to go into the creative thought now as much as you can, as much time? I mean, you could be just walking somewhere and go into creative thought. That's going deep within where your heart is, your heart chakra, and connecting with who you are, connecting with your spirit, your soul, your higher self. And that is going to be so valuable for the rest of humanity. It is going to be so helpful, because there'll be structure. Because there's going to be a lot of people coming to you guys for guidance and direction. The ones that used to call you crazy. The ones that used to say, boy, you should get a straitjacket and have them take you away. You're loony. That you're talking a bunch of gibberish. Those are the same people that are going to be coming to you and looking for guidance. That'll say to you, "Guy, I never thought I'd say this, but you were right about a lot of things." There's got to be balance, and that's why you folks have been literally chosen on your life paths to all meet in this one area to help the rest of humanity. And I'm talking about all the people on all the different calls that go to the calls religiously, that interact, all of them. All of the readers, all of the clairvoyants, all of the tarots, everybody that's awake, everybody out there, and coming together and serving humanity in that way, where you're helping others, and it's not preaching. I'm not talking about preaching. I'm just talking people come to you, and you give them little sips, little sips, little sips, because they're going to want to know what the heck's happening. Is the sky falling? Is it the end of the world? Because people get set in their ways, and they get into a comfort where they don't like change, and they don't like getting disturbed in the world that they've built for themselves. And everything is about to change in this country across the board. Everything. And when you have a society and a culture that's so used to just things being a certain way, and all of that changes like a big boom, it's gonna upset some apple carts. And people are going to be concerned, and they're going to be looking for answers. And that's where we all come in. Now, you look at somebody who needs help, they need assistance after you've been hydrated, you've gone through your exchange, And you immediately start thinking, okay, well, what do you immediately start thinking of? You think about, okay, I got to take care of, some of my business things and things I got to get cleared up, and I got to get those taken care of. There'll be other people that will say, the heck with that, I got to go help so-and-so and help so-and-so and help so-and-so. So there'll literally be people that will forget about what they need to do for themselves, and they'll just automatically start helping other people, which in the long run, they'll end up being able to help themselves and get things situated. But that train of thought, I know, has gone through everybody. What am I going to do first, when this takes place? How am I? You say certain things, but until it actually takes place, all the buildup, all the emotional ups and downs, all the upheavals, all the challenges, everything, stretching you thin and drying you out, and continue holding on, and then having disappointment, and then all of a sudden, like I've said, this is going down like nobody. It's going down the way no one thought it would go down. So some of the preconceived concepts and ideas out the window. And the future is in all of your hands. It just depends on what you do with it. And when people are hydrated, they're happy. At least they're more happy. They're happier. Especially people that have been without for so long and all of a sudden have wherewithal. They're not without anymore. So they're happy at first, euphoric. So I've got all this wealth. What am I going to do? And that's why there's going to be people to help them get adjusted and get situated. Because if you've never had wealth, how are you going to know what to do with it when you do have it? That's why so many people who do come into great wealth lose it all, because they don't know what to do with it. How are they supposed to know what to do with it? They've never had it before. So seeking, being pragmatic, methodical. What's the most logic? You take your notebook out and you start writing things down. I'd suggest, if you haven't done it yet, that you just draw a line down the center of a page of some notebook paper and say, things I have to do for me and things I want to do for others. And when you start writing in the column of you, and you cover all the things that you want to accomplish as far as when you are paid and you have your wealth, it will come in great, it'll be very handy for you when you have that, because you'll look at it, use it as a guideline, and say, okay, I've got to do this, this, and this. I've got to take care of this. I've got to take care of that. Where do I begin? And some of you probably have laid groundwork, and you've got a lot of plans, and you've got some meticulous structures laid out, and models, and so on and so forth. But I know a lot of you haven't put a lot of effort into that yet. But the fact of the matter is, it's just a good idea. It's kind of like a reference page to go back to. And all the people that you believe needs your immediate help and assistance. People talk about what's going to happen. People don't have to work. Now, you've heard this term many times. And the term is work for a living. Earn a living. Okay? Now, if you take a civilization and you enslave them, and they don't know they're enslaved, is one of the biggest tricks ever. So if you look at the aspect of people earning a living, okay, and so by the time they're done earning a living, they're so physically beat up and drained that on average, a regular retiree in this country passes after 7 years of retirement, 7 years into retirement, because of their physical health and well-being. They didn't take care of themselves. That's basically it. So if you have to earn a living, it means that you can't live free and happy without working for somebody to earn a living. Think about that. okay? And if you enjoy doing things and you're going to be helping people, you're not earning a living. You don't have to earn a living. It was given to you by the Creator. Your right to be free and happy and joyous. Earth was designed to be an Eden planet for us to enjoy and respect and harmony. So, you know, people have to be active. Sure they do. So they're helping each other. And maybe some people, I don't know, I'm going to work with wood because I enjoy that. I'm going to make a piece of furniture for so-and-so. Even though we have replicators and everything, I'm going to do this. It's going to be handmade. Handmade things will become very valuable in people's eyes because you made it with your own hands, or you made a dress, or you did this, or you did that. And those are all things that are in servitude to others because you're doing things for other people. How can you not be busy on a daily basis and you choose of helping others? But see, the twisted plan is to make you feel guilty or bad that you're helping others, that you're not earning a living, that you're not supporting this fiat system that they created. And so it's a whole different mindset. And that's the toughie, because a lot of people have a very difficult time putting their arms around that and giving that a big hug because of the fact that it's so different and it's so unusual type of thinking. Well, everybody grew up with the same mentality. You got to work to earn a living. You got to earn a living. You can't just live. You got to earn a living. That's why there's 2 billion people on the verge of actually starving on this planet because of that mentality. And so then you get a handful of people that control the rest of society and steal all the money and rape and pillage everybody on a daily basis without anybody really noticing it. So again, it's the word gradualization, where people become adjusted and they just get used to it. And they don't speak up and they don't challenge it because they're fearful, and they just comply. Just like a good little slave, you just comply. As I said on the last call, people say they're only one person. Knowledge. Knowledge is power. Ignorance is evil. And with the internet, even though it's got some bugs that need to be kicked out on it, but for the most part, you can find so many useful pieces of information on it. They can't destroy it. See, they can't destroy the internet, no matter how much they'd like to. They can't control it, no matter how much they'd like to control it, because it'll continue to evolve. Period. And we have to always have the human touch, the human love and compassion on this planet. And that's where we, from our roots and how we were created and where we're at today and what we're doing today and, the love and the compassion, we have to start thinking AI. Anti-artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence begins to grow its own mind, and then it becomes its own thought process, which is then too dangerous for humanity. So AAI is anti-artificial intelligence. Some of it's good, but there has to be a place where we cut it off, where we say, that's enough, we don't need any more. It's under our control. And since we are bringers of life and love and compassion, because we've proven it over and over on this planet throughout the ages, is to get, and remember that the majority are herd mentality, that's the masses are herd mentality. So that everybody starts developing into that direction, gradually developing and helping each other, wantingly, and not expecting something in return. Because you know that I'm sure you come across people that they do things for other people, but then they expect something in return. Like you've heard the term, what's in it for me? What do I get out of it? How much can I make? And instead of just saying, no, I'm just, here's $100. I hope it helps you out. It's not a loan. I just want to do it for you, give it to you. And you guys are the keys to the doors of paradise. Each one of you have a key to paradise. And it just depends on how you orchestrate it and how you create it. And others, you'll have so many people interacting with you that it'll boggle the mind at times. But the planet needs our help, and just by thinking, we're helping. A lot of people think you got to go out there, you got to do this, you got to do that. No, just the most powerful thing is thinking. Creating that vibrational frequency of loving thought, permeating the planet and all life on a continual basis. If we use that affirmation on a continual basis, where we're thinking in creative thought, where we're permeating every life form unconditionally on planet Earth with love, unconditional love, continuously, nonstop. Almost as if you see this big pump and it goes down to the ground and it blows out unconditional love that just saturates all life, all sentient life, all life period, all etheric life, continuously. Now imagine if we have enough people that pick up on that and can discipline themselves enough where they're doing it on a daily basis. Not a gathering where everybody, prays and meditates at one time, but continuously. They get in the habit where they're doing it every day, walking around, playing with their friends, interacting, but they have moments where they're so used to putting that out there that they put it out there. I'm telling you, that's the most powerful form of energy that any of us could ever wish for in our lifetimes, or any lifetime, is to look at the planet, and a lot of you know what's going on. You know what's happening. You see it. It bothers you. You look at the skies, you look at the waterways, and so on and so forth, and you look at people and neighbors and stuff and how it's affected them. And imagine doing that quietly. Not banging up and down and preaching it, but that's what you do. And imagine as it grows, because it will grow, where you don't need to go, I got to go call so-and-so up and so-and-so. You just do it. Through creative visualization in your mind's eye, in your heart, you look at the planet and you see it, and you see humanity, and you see all life, and you see all etheric life existence, and you permeate it all, saturate it with unconditional love. That is absolutely super powerful. And there's nobody that will be able to contest that, because it will make immediate effect as that grows and as it continues to grow. Because the feeling of euphoria will start permeating your very existence. That'll be your reward. And it'll get to the point where you just enjoy doing it. You'll just continue on a continuous basis. You won't need to schedule it. You won't have to set time aside. It'll just be automatic. And that's the long-term goal. To get as many people as possible doing creative thought in that direction with that type of visualization for everyone, for the planet, for humanity. You see something that is not good, in your town or something, or you come across a really, disgusted person and kind of irritates you, and you're in a good mood, and then you come across somebody that's not in a good mood, and you send that out all over everywhere. You know? It's like you see, we're coming up on, the holiday, the Christmas holiday, and everybody's stressed. Everybody's worried about buying for somebody. Everybody's worried about eating. There's so many things going on. And that's why this is a good time to introduce this at this type of application in this way, because it eliminates. We've tried groups all across the planet. We've tried separate meetings through the years of all walks of life in the community, where everybody get together every Wednesday night, and accountants, partners in law firms, waitresses at restaurants and stuff, all get together and all learn how to communicate and talk with each other on a human basis. We did that for years, and it spread all over the world. The thing is to keep it going. That's the point. And by doing it this way, you're on your own. You just do it, and you connect. As soon as you start doing it, other people are doing it, and you connect. That energy connects. It touches others. You'll feel it. And as you feel it, you'll expand on it. And if there's anything that is possible to make a huge difference on this planet, doing that is a guarantee. Now picture that. Picture you don't have any lack of. You've got all the wealth you could possibly imagine. You have set up a way for project work and helping others and being in servitude to your brothers and sisters. Your health is good. You don't have to worry about the health anymore. Just take care of yourself. And you're sending out this thought, this creative thought. And you're feeling it. And you're sending it out in perfect harmony. Just by that one act, you're connected, and it'll grow. And it could be any time. Doesn't have to be specific. Doesn't have to be at 3 and 6 and 9. It can be any time in the day, as often as you would like. It's like, and here's another one. If you're irritated, or you just have a bad biorhythm day, is a good time to send it out. And the more you do it, the more you condition yourself to do it more and more, and then it just becomes part of your day. And not a troublesome, not a burdensome type of responsibility, but something that you enjoy doing. Because I do that. I enjoy doing it. We've got other people doing it. We want to get that out there. And it's easy to do that because you don't have to be on the phone. You don't have to be on the computer. You don't have to meet at a specified time. Everybody's got schedules. It takes a huge amount of time to get thousands of people together to do a meditative session for the planet, because a lot have been done through the years. But you do it this way, and each person, each human being works this and sends this creative thought out. It will be absolutely spectacular. It'll be absolutely magnificent. And it give you good feeling, good energy, renew you, and it'll touch everything, everyone. It's like you don't like the geoengineering, then you do a creative visual thought, and you send out, permeate everything with unconditional love. And people say, what's unconditional love? You love everything, no matter what it is, no matter what, anything that's life, you love. You don't pass judgment over it. You don't label it. It's just love. Unconditional. Just like your pet. They're here for a reason to teach us unconditional love. You want to learn something, we learn from our pets on unconditional love. They very rarely stay mad at you. They're always there for you. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But we're at a time here It's real crucial because we're at a crossroads of total, massive, spectacular change, not only in this country, but across the planet. And a lot of surprises are getting ready to take place. So,
okay. So, Jared, can you cover the spiritual aspect of man's injection into the body versus the chopping and cutting and rearranging that the Anunnaki did?
The spiritual aspect of entering the body is that our real existence is spiritual. We're etheric energy, plasma energy. We're like balls of light, is the simplest way to put it. And what we do is that we decide that we want to come in to a physical form. And we pick the physical form for different reasons, some for challenges, some so because we'd like to experience it. And when we're in that etheric form, we're in euphoria. I mean, we really don't have a care in the world. We're immortal. We're floating. Everything. We're filled with love. There's no such thing as animosity or destruction or anything. And so we're kind of like, okay, I want to experience. I'm going to experience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be in that family. And I'm going to pick my mother, and I'm going to pick my father, and I'm going to pick my siblings. And I want specific situations in that family that will challenge me, and I can learn. A lot of us will pick way more than we can handle. We'll pick a lot more than we can handle. Because if you're in euphoria and you're filled with love and you're just glowing and you're immortal and you're just floating on the etheric side, and you say, "Oh, I can handle that. That's a piece of cake." And there's no real time element on the other side. There's no time. It's like when someone leaves the body, especially in hospitals. I've sat in hospitals and had conversations with people who have left their bodies. But they don't know they left their bodies. Some of them do, some of them don't. But, the fact of the matter is that they pass and they leave their bodies, and then once they get acclimated and they realize that they're gone, they start forgetting because their memories start dissipating because there's no real time barrier in the etheric end. And then they become, it's like, for us, someone could be gone 10 years in the physical world. To them, they just left, which is just really, I think it's really cool. That shows you the difference. So when we transition from our spirit, and not all of us do. Some just say, I talked to one that was, I think she was 19, and she had incarnated as a young girl during the times of the conquistadors and the Spaniards, and she was impaled by a soldier. And she said after that she never wanted to incarnate again into human form. We have freedom of choice. We choose what we want to do. If the vessel's available, you pick it and then you enter it. And when you enter that vessel, you enter it, as they call it, utero. And then you become, you have memories in your spirit end, and you remember your past life, usually. And when you're in the maternity ward in the basket, and you're laying there, a lot of us remember what our past lives were. And some of us will say, "Oh no, I'm a baby again." And here we go again. And then by the time you turn 7, you usually have forgotten who you were. In most cases, not all cases, but most cases. We've interviewed hundreds of kids that, like they're 4 and 5 years old, and they'll have a conversation with you and tell you who they were. I had one little boy, he was 3 years old, and I said to him, do you remember who you were before you are who you are now? Oh, yeah, I remember. I got shot. I got caught. I was shot in the neck and the throat, and he had a little ruby red birthmark right where he was shot. But he said he was shot. He was walking out onto the street. It was in the 1800s, and it was in the Western days. And a couple of guys got in a fight outside the saloon, pulled a gun. He happened to be walking through them at the time, not paying attention, and the one guy fired and hit him in the neck, and it killed him. And he did it that clearly. He said it that clearly and that perfectly. Like it was no big deal. Mm-hmm. And he said, so here I am now. I'm happy I'm here. So when you have you pick and choose when you come in, it's set up. And if you choose, if your spirit, you have guides that help you. And I'm sure some of you have heard a voice in your ear at times. It's usually in the ear. They communicate with you when you're sleeping a lot of the times. But in most cases, you have guides that will help you and steer you away. Or you might slip and you could have fallen and hurt yourself badly, and you're able to somehow miraculously stop yourself from doing that. That's them helping. So we do have help. We do have a lot of assistance because we couldn't do it ourselves. We couldn't do it by ourselves. We have to have assistance to navigate this life here on this planet because there's so many challenges. And like I said, when you're a spirit and you enter the body, you think you can handle anything. It's not going to be a big deal. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. I can beat cancer. I can do this. I can accomplish this. I can do that. I can be challenged with this, and it goes on and on and on. Sometimes our eyes are bigger than our stomachs. And now, interestingly enough, there are sometimes when people say, "Well, how do you have a spirit guide? How does your spirit guide work?" Well, you make an arrangement on the other side with your spirit guide, someone that you know and that you're close with. And then they promise that they'll be your spirit guide. And sometimes, and it can't be at the same time, but sometimes you end up being a spirit guide for the spirit guide that was your spirit guide, and then when you pass, you agree to be their spirit guide because they ask you. So, I remember there was a guy, spirit that I talked with, that said to me, that I said, what was the first thing you thought of when you got to the other side, when you were over on the other side? And he said, I asked for a turkey sandwich. He said for some reason that's what he wanted. Now understand, he was not in physical form anymore. So he's at this table with a group of other spirits, and he asked them, I'd like a turkey sandwich. So they all tried their darndest to conjure a turkey sandwich because none of them would remember what it tasted like or what it looked like. And isn't that funny that some of the things that we have in this physical life, we do carry some of that essence with us in the spiritual life, and then vice versa. So, I've had some interesting conversations with spirits that, just like, you and I sitting across from a table having a conversation. I've ran into them. One I ran in at a bookstore. She looked like, the nicest grandmother. She had salt and pepper gray hair. She was a little tiny thing. She was probably about 5 feet, weighed about 90 pounds, sopping wet. And there was a group of women, and they were all talking. They were all related. There looked like 3 or 4 different generations, and they were all talking and just backing, just rapping away. And I noticed her, and she was sitting there, and she had her hands kind of clasped, and she had this just forlorn look on her face. And she wasn't saying a word. And these women were just going crazy, talking, and they were so happy to see each other and everything. And I looked at her, and she smiled at me. I smiled at her, and she pointed at the one woman. And so I went over, and I said, did you have a grandmother that, I described her physical appearance and everything. And the girl said, yeah, she passed 3 years ago. How do you know that? And I said, well, she's standing right here. Of course, they didn't see her. That made that spirit so happy. So happy. They were beaming. So a lot of the times when you're out and about and you don't know it, sometimes you probably don't know it, but you sense something's different, you come across spirits that look like regular people walking around. And then the next thing you know, I'm sure some of you had the experience, the next thing you know, you look around because you had a funny feeling, and they're gone, like they just disappeared. And a lot of the times, we all feel lonely. It's a proven fact when we're with a partner, we live longer, we're happier, believe it or not. But so many of us are trying to be with somebody, trying to have a successful relationship, trying to be happy, which is inside of us. The happiness that we're looking for is inside of us. And if we only knew how many etherics are around us all the time. But while we're in physical form, we're not really deeply connected with ourselves, so we want that physical contact because we are such, human beings are such loving beings. They're very caring and loving beings when you take away all the other garbage that weighs them down. And they want to be with others. They want to experience interaction. They want to hold. They want to hug. They want to express their emotions. So in the etheric end, you can't do that because they're etheric energy. They're plasma energy. They aren't physical form, so you can't touch and feel them. People say in the spirit transition, is there a dark? There's a lot of theories on this, about this. You probably come across quite a few where, you have a tunnel that you come across when you're passing. And the tunnel is light. You see this light, and it gets brighter and brighter and brighter, and then you're in the other side, and for any intents purposes, you're in heaven. And that's what most people describe. Now, there's another philosophy where, and you can read this, you can look it up if you haven't already, by Maitreya. And Maitreya talks about not going toward the light. Says that the light is a trap. It's part of the conscript here in our solar system, in this quarter part of the galaxy, where this other civilization has set up a matrix to capture souls, soul catchers, they call them. Mm-hmm. And so that has all been designed as a trap for our souls, our spirits, to be caught in a repetitive reincarnation cycle, so that they force us to reincarnate over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, because they want to live off of our. You've probably heard the word loosh. Mm-hmm. And the word loosh is basically we give off this energy that makes them high. Okay? Right. Whether you're happy, whether you're sad, whether you're angry, they do this on purpose to make you give this off so that they get high. And the more they can do it, the better off they are. So in order to have that, they have to keep us reincarnating over and over and over and over again to keep that feeding going, to keep that going. So they've designed this unbelievable conscript, this whole structure It is so well designed that it tricks us as souls. It tricks us. So we're taught to go to the light. Okay, you don't want to go to you don't want to stay in the darkness. Now Lao Tzu, some of you know him as the book The Tao or The Way. The Tao means the way. And Lao Tzu's story is that he describes, you have this beautiful bowl, and the bowl isn't what's sacred. It's the space that the bowl holds that is sacred. So you have certain ascended masters who have escaped the trap. It wasn't easy. They were able to escape it. And they try to send everything after you. In the Bhagavad Gita, they talk about all the monsters and everything that come after you, and the challenges and trials that you're faced with, that you when you go into the afterlife and you pass through this series. And this construct puts everything it can at you to scare the living crap out of you as a spirit, as a soul, so that you go toward the light. And the light follows you everywhere. If you're trying to get away, it's following you. And most of the time, it's going to catch up with you, and you're going to be absorbed into the light. But sometimes, rarely, they have escaped it. And that goes way back. It goes back to this quarter of the galaxy, of the Milky Way galaxy. A civilization designed a construct, a netting system, if you will, an energetic fence. And these huge technological machines, and I've never seen one, but these machines stationed on different planets that literally, and let's put it this way, you could be in another civilization in some other part of the galaxy on a vacation with your family in your ship, traveling across space, and unexpectedly come into the quarter quadrant of the Milky Way galaxy and be trapped. And that's what's happened. That's what's happened several times. So, you get a lot of souls that are forced to reincarnate here on Earth that aren't from Earth. They never came. They weren't, that's not, they were trapped. So these creatures, for a better word, are just, and so that people say, well, why did they do that? What did they do that for? They do it because they can. That's the only explanation. They do it because they can. And so it gets confusing because, in physical form we're taught certain things in religion, and different belief mechanisms are instilled in us, and we don't go beyond. We don't go into the meta, beyond. We don't go beyond in our thinking. It's like tonight I've been talking about the creative thought process and love, and unconditional love for the planet and humanity. A lot of us kind of keep ourselves almost, I don't know if it's the unknown, or we don't have the energy at times or what, but we should explore the unknown, the meta, beyond. And when you start learning this stuff, because it's out there, I picked up most of it through talking with spirits and clairvoyance and the metaphysical arena, and the crystals and herbology and naturopaths, and for years and years and years. So it's just how I've been guided, I guess you could say it. Some people are guided different ways to pick up different knowledge, and I've been guided this way. And still just scratching the surface. And, when humanity can have these conversations collectively as a whole, then we've gotten somewhere. When just about everybody, let's just put it that way, no longer is it taboo or weird or unusual or different or strange, that's interesting. That's interesting because I had this experience. And it's so fun and it's so enlightening when you have other people, as you guys know, because you seek out other people that are like-minded so you can discuss things. And then you end up talking for hours because you get so excited that you've connected with somebody that understands, that teaches you some things as well as you teach them some things. And I'm sure all of you have experienced that, at least most of you experienced that, where you get with a group of people or something and you start talking and they pick up on it and then they connect with you, and it's just, it's like old home week. You've been talking for hours and it seems like you've only been talking for minutes. And imagine that as a collective whole of society. Imagine where everywhere you go, people are interacting like that, talking and discussing. Now, the mechanism for the soul catchers, my understanding is that it's pretty much been brought down. So I now it's not completely down because there's another reason. If we didn't have this process going on, because this is what happens to a soul. Soul leaves the body. What some people like to call it spirit, soul, higher self. But it leaves the body. And as we go through a process. We go to the other side. We follow the light. We go to the other side. We are reviewed. On what, we look at our lives and see what we've done and so on and so forth. We go through this whole process. Then, when we go back down and reincarnate into another physical form, we are put through massive amounts of electrical shock. The spirit is, not going in physical form, so that we don't remember anything. Now, unfortunately, the runoff of that is that when we go into the body, like I said, as a baby, we remember things because it hasn't taken full effect. By the time we're 7 years old, we don't remember. Majority of people don't remember anything, nothing. And it's a fact, and you can research this. It's an absolute fact that there are people who have remembered in detail a past life, what their past life. It's usually the life they had before the one they're in. There's a book out, I can't remember the name of it. A little boy took his family out to the place where he crashed his World War II fighter plane. The exact location. They went down, they found the plane, and he talked about his whole life. Another one was a woman from who in a past life lived in Ireland. I think she had a bunch of kids. I can't remember what the number was. It was 4 or 5 kids. Her husband was, I believe, a fisherman on the wharf, and he got sick. He died, or he was lost at sea, I guess. And she was the only one left, the only parent for the kids. She came down very ill, and she passed, and she felt really bad about leaving all of her children. So she's reincarnated in America. She gets to a certain age, and she keeps drawing pictures of this house in a shoreline, and she can't figure out why. And she keeps, writing things down and stuff. And she remembers some of the names of her kids. So she starts researching. To make a long story short, she finds all of her kids, all grown, some of them in their 80s and 90s, and she is able to meet them all and imagine that, and tell these children, these kids, who she was, and that she wanted to tell them that she was sorry that she left them when she did. And they were blown away. But it was a happy ending, happy story. And there's just dozens of people on the planet that have remembered a past life. Right down to, and some people have remembered being a bear or a horse. So, that's why certain people, have you ever noticed that certain people are guided to like certain things, Somebody loves horses right off the bat.
Right.
One little boy, he loved trains. Just loved trains. 3 years old, loved trains. Just loved trains. Loved being around trains. Parents couldn't figure it out because nobody in the family liked trains or was around trains, but he liked the old steam locomotives and stuff. Come to find out, in his past life, he was a train conductor. So we recirculate is what happens. And unfortunately, we've got this little cycle going with these beings that catch our souls and throw us back and reincarnate. Some of us would not care to reincarnate so many times. But in the long run, we pick up a lot of experience as souls. So we become much more advanced and experienced than if you're on a passive planet. And what I mean by a passive planet, there's no war, there's no conflict, there's just enlightenment. So your soul doesn't evolve as quickly or as fast as if you could go to Earth, which is not a nice place, unfortunately. And I'm sure all of you will agree that when you come down here, you better be loaded for bear to protect yourself and to have as many guides as you could possibly get a hold of to navigate through this life here on this planet. Because the majority of it is fake. The majority of how they set it up to make you think is fake. It's just garbage. And they fill you full of lies, and they educate you on a bunch of lies, and they put you through life like in cycles. It's like cycling all the time, you know. And everybody thinks that they're supposed to die, you know, the max age is 78 or 80, whatever, and then that's when you die. You know, your body rots away and you die. And that's not true, you know. If we had the technologies that we were supposed to have decades ago, if you wanted to live to be 300 years old, you could be. You could. You know, it's a choice. You want to stay healthy without any diseases, without worrying about any diseases, you can. But look at the fear and the anger that they've instilled in the human race and how they control fear, sorrow, anguish. And then they get the loosh, and they want that loosh. So it doesn't, you know, you look at that picture, and you want to get angry, but no, I'm going to get angry. I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt and pull that energy off of me. I am going to do unconditional love saturation of the entire planet, both etherically and physically, whenever I choose during the course of the day. When I lay my head on the pillow at night, I'm going to do it. Before I get out of bed in the morning and kiss God, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to continually do it as much as I possibly can. And it's just, I've done it when I'm having a conversation with a couple people. And to get folks to do, that's doable. That's real doable. It's not difficult. It's not time consuming. You can do it all in the course of your daily activities. When you're doing a research paper, you're doing your thesis, your PhD, or whatever it is, you can take a break. We always take a break, a couple minutes. And imagine getting into that habit, the euphoric feeling that you'll eventually start experiencing. It's wonderful. And believe me, we have tried so many applications and avenues. Back in the 70s, we back then they didn't have computers, so we had to get people together and get on the phone, and that's when we had the corded phones and we didn't have the wireless, and that was difficult to do that, and you had to do word of mouth, and then back then it wasn't that big of a deal. There weren't as many people that were awake, so you really, really had to dig. So it's now, today, it's so much simpler. You know, you get on the call. It's like, and whether there's 100 people, 50 people, or 1,000 people, you send that out, and now they know. Now you're empowered. And some people do it, but that seems to be the simplest and the most impactful process that we've come across from the people that are using it. It's not complicated, it's not lengthy, and it really covers everything.
So you when I asked you the question, you covered the the portion for the up-to-date man. I'm talking about from the beginning, the first one where the Bible talks about being breathed into.
Well,
I'm talking about that spirit being injected in from creation.
Oh, so you're talking about when a new soul is generated from the source.
I'm talking about the first one that has been described to us in the scriptures in the beginning, in Genesis. I'm talking about that soul at that Adam. And you know, it says that
Adama.
It says that God breathed. Yeah, I'm talking about that soul. It says God breathed the breath of life into man, and he became a living soul. That's the aspect I want you to discuss, as opposed to the Anunnaki slicing and dicing the DNA, so forth and so on.
That's called the new soul process. What you just described, and what that means that God, the Creator, created the first light being or the first soul.
Yeah.
And that's an etheric image. That's not a physical at first. So God
created exactly. Now I went over this before with my originals, but you know it's a lot of guests here, so I wanted you to go over that portion.
Well, it's a soul. The first one, God created, breathed life into created the soul, which is an etheric, and that soul. Now understand that soul is new, and when a soul is created by God in that format, in that context, that soul is then sent out to be created as a being, a physical being, to experience. That's why we are created, is to experience. And so we experience, the more we experience, the more the Creator experiences through us.
Right.
So that's separate from the soul catchers and everything else. That's right. That happened way before.
Way back. That's what I'm talking about.
Way before the soul catchers and all that stuff. That's when human was created. God created the spirit, the soul. The soul took on the form of human, and the rest is history. God kept creating. God creates all souls. And there are new souls that come from God that have not experienced. And so they go out and experience. Now, people don't know this, but not all souls are human. A lot of them go out and they experience in other civilizations, other planets, other galaxies, other star systems.
Right.
So God is creating constantly new souls that go out and take on physical form. He also creates the souls of the planets. There's so many different souls taking on so many different physical forms, it's unreal. And everything passes and recycles. And during those times, there was no interference, let's put it that way. It was a bright, enlightened, wonderful, smooth, holy presence of love, light, existence. And the new souls, and also, I mean, people say, well, then, if you have all new souls, how do you become an old soul? Well, because you're then a soul. You're then created by God as a soul. You then have the ability to continually incarnate in different forms. Your mission is to create and is to experience. You either experience and create or create and experience. And that's why God creates us in order to do that, and it makes us in His own image. And if you'll see, if you don't, you probably have, that most civilizations are humanoid.
Right.
Not all of them, but most of them. The reason is that they're creating it now. Some of these civilizations will say they aren't superstitious. Their beliefs are different than ours. They look at creation differently than we do. So you really have to open your mind and really be exposed to a lot of different avenues, because we're encapsulated in one little small area of the galaxy. And we're created by the God, and we're put out as souls, spirits, whatever you want to call it, and we're pure love. Pure love. Pure love energy. That's what the God Creator is made up of, is pure love energy. And so we go out as innocent spirits and souls, and we take on physical form, and we create. And we create in the physical world. And everything we create is beautiful. And it's wonderful. And we spread the love energy throughout the galaxy and out of the universes. And our sole purpose is to spread the love energy throughout the entire space, period, is to experience, create, love. Now, if you look at that beginning model, period, that beginning model, and look where we're at right now. You know, some things have gone awry. And they've gone kind of a little bit awry, because we're not, what I just described doesn't seem to fit where we're at. Okay?
Well, we're trying to get back to.
We're trying to renew it so that we can bring it back out of us, because it's in all of us, and so we renew it, period. A lot of the crop circles on the planet are done by etheric spirits, balls of light, sending messages, trying to jog the memories of those of us here on Earth that we're connected with them, period. We're connected with inner Earth. We're connected with so many different species and civilizations, and it's such a shame that we've been so cordoned off. We've been so segregated from our other brothers and sisters. We've said so many things to learn. It's like during this transition, Creator, God, has decreed that we have a mentor during this vibrational frequency shift.
Right.
And the mentor is going to educate us on many things. And, you know, that's another part of this whole transition and this shift. And this whole transition, you know, we talk about the ancients, the galactics, we talk about the humans, we talk about the boots on the ground, the Alliance, the Republic, and, you know, all of this we talk about. But the one power and the one decree overseeing it is God. The archangels and God. We're overseeing this to make sure that's the time. It's the time that's been decreed. No more fooling around, no more messing around, no more wasting time. It's time to ascend. And that's to go from one vibrational frequency to another. And the higher you go vibrationally, the less darkness is present. So the higher you go, because there's 11th vibration, 12th vibration, 13th vibration. Now we have 5 fingers, right? And we're one of the few species of life that can travel to different dimensions. See, a lot of species are only one-dimensional, so they can only stay in that dimension. We're right now in 3rd dimension. we have 5 fingers, we can go to 5th dimension. And that's what we're going to do. Then from 5th dimension, we'll eventually evolve so that we can move to a higher dimension. But we are, we're able to travel into dimensions. We can exist in one society in their dimension, say that the 2nd dimension or the 1st dimension. I wouldn't want to go there. I wouldn't care to go there. But just for an example, we could exist there without being harmed, without our existence being harmed. Now, and others can't. They're stuck there. They can't move up in any other dimensions. But we're able to. We were designed that way by Creator. So that we could literally expand out and spread love throughout the universes and co-create. And it's as seamless as it is. And it's that simple. But along the way, we've been ambushed and we've been, sidewhacked and everything else, and we've become very confused. And so now's the time to bring it all back together. And that's what all of this monetary shift is about. That's what all of this stuff's about.
So whenever the division is taking place, well, first of all, the M-class planets, are they other dimensions of the Earth? Or are they actual of the planet?
No, they're vibrational frequencies. So if you have, it's like say your spirit guide they're etheric and they're a different vibrational frequency. So that's what in our vibrational frequency in 3rd dimension, it's very dense. So that's why we can't see them. Most of the time we can't see them. Right. That's why we can't see our past loved ones. Most of the time you can't see them because they vibrate at a much different frequency. So it's like you could get a table, and if you were able to take a solid wood table and you were able to change the molecular structure of that table by increasing the vibration of the molecular structure of that table, where it would disappear in front of you. You wouldn't see it. And you could go even further by accelerating it to the point where you could pass your hand right through it. Everything is fluid. It's just that the vibrational frequency is higher or lower.
Right.
So with us, we're able to down our frequency and up our frequency between 1 and 5.
Okay. So my question is then, some of us are aware of that because, I've taught that on this call. However, my question to you is this. Whenever the divide takes place and the shift since the Earth is overloaded with people already and the shift of so many is moved to the M-type planets, will that be will they physically be shifted, or will they be vibrationally shifted and they physically will still be here?
I see what you're saying. Okay. You're saying, let's get this clear. You're asking, is it the same Earth?
Exactly.
Or is it a different Earth that you exist on when it's a higher vibrational frequency?
Because you mentioned about the M-class planet, which is my first time hearing M-class, but I've heard of different dimensions of this Earth. And I know that they talked about other planets. They've discovered, I think, 3 more Earths, a little smaller than this one. So I'm wondering, are they physical Earths that they're seeing, and or are they somehow tapping into the other dimensional portions of this Earth that's further away and make them look smaller? And if so, how will if they're physical Earth, will people be shifted there? Because we read where there'll be a time when people that don't want to change their vibration will go to sleep and they'll be in stasis and they'll wake up on a new planet. And the scriptures even talk about, a new planet, new Earth, and a new heaven appearing. So my question is, are they shifted there dimensionally or physically?
Okay. People that aren't ready to move up to fifth dimension on this planet will continue to exist in the life that's already here. So
they have created in that dimension, that third dimensional mindset.
That's right.
Of vibration.
They will stay in the earth we see right now, the earth we're experiencing right now. They will stay in this life, that life, okay, until the point comes where they're awakened enough where they can make the move to fifth dimension. So
now, is that because the earth is so beat down and torn up by man that they have to stay? Or because the earth is supposed to be shifting now as we speak. Yeah.
So Earth, you have a third dimensional Earth, you have a fourth dimensional Earth, you have a fifth dimensional Earth, you have a sixth dimensional Earth.
All the way to 12.
So you have all these different dimensions and all these different vibrational frequency planets. So Earth, Gaia, basically will have a third dimension where people will exist and live. Then she'll have a fourth dimension and a fifth dimension. So right now she's making the transition to fifth dimension. And we will be part of that. Some of us will be part of that transition. And we will exist on a planet Earth in a fifth dimensional frequency. And our bodies will be fifth dimensional frequency.
So basically, Earth is time traveling, and based on the time frame will determine, and the mindset of the people will determine whether they shift through time with her or remain in a position of the past, pretty much, or status quo. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people grasp it, but we're in it right now. We're experiencing it. That's what's happening. And so people say, well, will the third dimensional people know any difference? Not at all. None at all.
Not at all.
No. Everything in their lives will be the same. It'll be a suppressed society, pollution, and so on and so forth. And that's third dimension, okay? You ought to see first dimension if you think third dimension's bad.
Oh, yeah.
And so you basically, we've made it. We've turned the corner. So we're going to jump to fifth dimension, in fifth dimensional Earth. And she is accommodating us. So she's meeting us in the fifth dimension. And you're right, it's like time travel, and her third dimension stays in third dimension, and her fourth dimension and fourth dimension, she time travels to fifth dimension. And we will see it, we'll experience the shift, the change. And we're going to be cubicalized. We'll be put in transitional chambers where you will incubate. I guess the only word I can think of is incubate for a period of days, so that your crystalline, your vibrational frequency at the fifth dimension, and then your body becomes crystalline rather than carbon. And then we leave the chamber, and we are then crystalline and not carbon. And that's basically what will happen. We'll be in a fifth dimensional frequency and a fifth dimensional Earth, which is going to be an Eden. And we will be part of the change, and we'll experience the change. Those of us who are awake. Some people aren't. And it's no big deal. I mean, they're not. It's not like they're bad. They're being punished. It's just that they're not awake yet. And so many of us have become awake, and we're accepting that, and we understand that, and we're ready for it. And, you know, it's huge. It's huge. Big time. That's why, you know, some people have said it's the biggest event, and other species have come just to watch the event, to watch the shift, that are in our solar system, that have heard about it, that want to witness it. So, yeah, we're the main show. We're not some opening act. We are the act.
Mhm. Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, so you came on last Tuesday or Wednesday when we spoke. I asked you to come in and talk about we agreed that you would speak on the history of humanity.
Yes.
But all during this call, we have you pretty much have been shifting pretty much back towards what everybody's ears are itching to hear about the transition that's taking place. So what I would like to do is allow you and the callers to talk about that so their hearts and minds can be clear, because I am trying to maintain my my peace, because I feel their energy.
Oh yeah, I know. I could.
Pulling.
Feel it? Boy,
not just pulling me, but pulling you, because you haven't remained on topic much based on what we discussed that you will be talking about. So since at the time that we discussed this last week, you coming in, you thought and had already made statements that the exchange would have taken place by then, but apparently it did not. And people's energy is high, but they're pulling, instead of towards consciousness, they're pulling towards money still. So what I like for you to do is I would like for you to talk with Tank, and maybe if we have time after that, 4 questions, maybe a few, but I'm not going past midnight because I ran myself down last week really bad.
Yeah.
So is that okay with you that you go into that and talk about the exchange and all of that stuff with Tank? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'll touch on it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Tank, go ahead and unmute yourself. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate you coming in, and like you, I wish this had taken place as everybody else so that we could maintain the status quo, but I feel the energy pool, and so, I wouldn't, I don't want you to be here the whole night entertaining me and my thoughts and the real truth callers when we got so many other yes on the line that just really itching to hear about what's going on. So I'd like for you to tap into that, because I've used you for the last 2 hours.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, Kate, are you still on? Press *6 or unmute yourself. Okay, I think he must have called. He must have got off. Okay, so what I'll do then is I will open up and see if you take a couple of questions for
I'll take a call. Sure.
Okay, all right then. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, you have to press *6 in order to get into our queue. (732).
Yeah, just real quick, because I want others to go, but we're here on the 3rd dimension. When we go to the 5th, the people that see us leave, we don't die. Do they wonder what happens to us?
No. No, it's a seamless transition.
Oh, in other words, like, let's say a spouse or something is left behind and I go. Will she know I'm gone in her memory?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you.
So does that mean he will be operating in both dimensions simultaneously?
Yes.
Wow, that is going to be sweet.
That's hard to grasp in our mind right now, but if that's what it is, wow.
I know.
That's amazing. Thank you for coming on, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. W.C.
You're welcome. Thank you. That was a great question. I didn't even know that. I know that we've been taught that we could shift back and forth, but I didn't know that we could like be in both at the same time.
I didn't.
Oh, there's hundreds of us live in different timelines.
Yeah. Because I know people that have talked about it, and even in my dreams, I saw myself in other dimensions, and we're doing different things, So I know that it's possible.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, 732.
Thank you.
Great question. Okay, Tank, I see you back.
Hey, Miss Wren, how you doing?
Good, Tank. How are you?
I'm just fine. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a couple questions. Could you repeat to me I feel like you said the exact number. The amount of people that you would need for a mass meditation to have a global impact on the overall changes in the world. You say it was somewhere in the range of 7,000? Did I hear that right? Or no?
7.8 thousand, roughly, because the clock keeps ticking, as you well know. So we've got 7,800,000 people and counting on the planet. So let's just say 7.9 thousand is 1% squared of the human race.
Okay. So 7.9. So we'll just call it 8,000 people. So with 8,000, because that makes sense to me. So if you have 8,000 people, and what was the approximate? I mean, you were talking about a couple times a week or 3 times a week. For how long? What was the time frame that you were talking about?
Continuously.
So 8,000 people.
2 to 3 times a week, continuously.
No. I mean, like in that time, so for example, say I had 8,000 people organized to simultaneously be in hold the same space, whether on a call or just whatever. Where we all know all these people are at the same time meditating for. Excuse my ignorance on this, but for an hour, for 2 hours, what would be, or does it even matter? Is it just kind of that
30 minutes
moment? 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Well, while you were talking, I want to let you know, I sent you an email right away that the 2 months after this, I will easily be able to organize that every single day. I'll make sure we do it every day. I will get 8,000 people every single day to meditate on creating the world that they want to create. They see it better. I will volunteer my services in that way, and I promise you I will do it. And what I would love in return, what I asked you in this email, I would love to hear, because when you talk about things, and I'm fascinated about this, when you talk about things, it's so matter of fact in your experiences, and I can tell that you're connected on some level, able to understand how to communicate with spiritual beings or galactics or things I clearly don't fully appreciate. But I always think about this with the Apostle Paul. He said, I met a man, whether in a body or out of a body, I cannot tell. When the Messiah raised from the grave, he was raised not as a physical body, but as a quickening spirit. But he looked like a regular person. So I just kind of assume it's something like that.
Yeah. It's
Well,
now,
I know one thing that Tank, for years, Cobra's team have set up meditation every week at the same time for years, and they raised the vibration tremendously doing that exercise. So you might want to tap into that.
Okay.
But they have thousands of people that do it at the same time every week on Sunday.
Yeah, but they don't do it frequently. He doesn't do it frequently.
They used to. They stopped.
No, he doesn't do it frequently. he'll dictate when he thinks the time is right. That was his last statement a while, not too long ago, where he said, people ask, should we do another meditation? He said, when the time is right, we'll do one. My thinking is different.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know they had stopped, because they used to do them whenever they were trying to clear the chimera off the planet. They were doing them every week.
Yeah, the chimeras, briefly, they're the reason we have the problems we currently do.
Yeah, I know.
So, but they're
they still got some under Long Island, or did they get them all from under there?
That facility has been neutralized.
Oh, good. Huh. That's good to know.
I know. I live on Long Island. That's good to know. So, we were talking about this last night on the call a little bit too. It's not, again, I agree with you about a continuous state of meditation. I'm continuing to practice that. I also think that meditation is something that can be practiced on a regular basis in everything you do. Kind of like Bikram yoga. They call it guided meditation, but it's an hour and a half in 26 postures and 110-degree heat, but it's still a guided meditation. And we were talking about this last night. It's not just about reaching the frequency, but it's about holding the frequency and getting the people on the planet to hold the frequency. Am I looking at that right? Is that what you're describing, Mr. Rand, when you're talking about this?
It's the best way I can describe it is living the thought.
Oh, that's absolutely. So, I'm curious. So, now in this state, you kind of went back and forth with some things, and you were talking about spending more time, in the state of meditation, creating the world that we want to live in. And I totally agree with that. And on some level, this has been on my mind that, we're allowing the world to be in the state it's in. Now, granted, we have all types of factors working against us because, our food has been, poisoned. Our water has been filled with fluoride. We've been dumbed down by computers and controlled unknowingly. We've accepted this as what the reality is, and the potential of the world of our own potential based on the story that they've told us that we've accepted as real. But in reality, they've erased our history. So of course we would accept that as real. Of course we would think we were limited beings, right? I mean, it's really a hard obstacle to get around. And then now we're going into this new transition, right? And we're all hopeful and excited and, just can't wait to really do exactly what you're saying, go create a new world. And it's really a challenge because it just seems like the same basic repetitive problem. So I was curious, I thought about this and I wanted to ask you, because for a while there it seemed like every day was the day everything was going to change. Like, it's now, it's today. And I thought about that, and I'm like, well, that would kind of put everybody in a state of it's now, right? So we can change this now. So I thought that's intelligent. That would make sense. But to continually not perform, doesn't that create just a massive negative energy with everyone? And is it their fault? Is it the people's fault who have no idea this is going on? Or the people in charge?
It's a challenge of the third dimension wanting to hold on to all of us, which makes us live in the third dimension rather than continually ascend to the fifth dimension. So when we're in the third dimension, we're in the goop, and we are continually pulled down like a ball and chain, or it's like a ball and chain around our ankles. And every time we try to run, we can't run. And we're sucked in to all the goop and the negativity and the repetitiveness and the anger and the frustration and the confusion. And it is a game ploy. It's an absolute ploy. And unfortunately, there are those elements that are purposely shooting information out to select groups to confuse and irritate them on a continual basis. And so, as you well know, you have so much energy that's flying around, and it's being twisted and changed and turned and colored, different colors and everything else. and it's coming from all different angles and all different sources, and you're trying to make head or tails of it, and it's a continual, repetitive, no performance, no performance, no performance, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And they change the game plan. They change the game plan. They keep changing it, keep changing it, keep changing it. Because they don't want anybody to know, period. They don't want anybody to know when. Nothing. Zero. Period. So they occupy the space by giving people information. Now, some of the information is on the money at the time it's being conveyed. And as soon as it's conveyed, 9 times out of 10, it changes. And it's like, woof, disappears. And then the people who are given the information share it and look like idiots and lose all their credibility over and over again because they're told certain things and they trust their source of who's telling them these things, and it's repetitive. And the source usually has a reasonable excuse. You embarrassed the crap out of me. You told me all this stuff, and I said it and everything, and nothing happened. Well, I can't do anything about that. I'm just a messenger. They changed their minds. They changed the schedule. I didn't know that after I gave the information, but that came down later, and they changed it on me. So, and it's, if you look at the cycle of the last 3 years, okay, it's the same cycle. It doesn't change. It's the same identical cycle. And you can pick up on it real quickly. And the reason it is the same cycle is because people aren't seeing what is actually transpiring, period. They're not seeing it. They're still sucked into those psychic enticements where, it's the money, and they know that. So they play the greed factor, and they think everybody's greedy, and that's not the case. So this information is given out. Just like when I said what I said a couple weeks ago or a week ago or whatever, that was solid information. That came from the progenitors of the whole system. And
I believe you.
Yeah, it changed. And I looked like a real, I didn't look good at all. So, but you take those chances.
But I'll tell you, Mr. Rand, believe me, I know I take those chances every single day.
Yeah,
every single day, I'm out taking those chances. And so I appreciate it. I mean, I knew right away what happened. I could tell you weren't lying. I know you didn't come on to deceive anybody or to try to hurt anybody. You were trying to get us prepared for the next stage. And that's my job. I appreciate that.
Yeah, just like you, I appreciate you because of the fact that you are taking those risks and you get knocked on and everything else. See, I wish people would realize that people like yourself and there's others out there that are taking those risks, not for themselves, or for everybody. Tank is taking a risk every single day. You're taking a risk every single day to get what information you can to people in the most honest way possible. And just because it changes, it shouldn't color you any differently just because the information sources that gave you the information, it went south. That's all there is to it. Wouldn't it be nice if people said, it must have went south. It must have went south. But no, you get whole dissertations.
You know what? That's okay. I got to be honest with you, Mr. Rand. I'm built for it. It doesn't even faze me. It doesn't affect my frequency. If people doubt me, I could. To be honest, I could care less. So I don't mind looking like a fool for that. That's okay. I'm trying to change the world. I'm trying to change the world to look like a fool as a small thing. But here's the thing, though, that it's a little. I think about this, and this is where I struggle because I've really. And I will continue, and I will until they perform. It's going to. We are increasing the frequency, even though it's aggressive, and it's funny because there's no other way, because at some point, all of us as human beings have to take responsibility that if we're in a state where we're accepting and essentially allowing ourselves to be comfortable and become complacent, and like you said, and we are the very small percentage of the population that is, quote unquote, awake. Now, if I'm awake and I recognize we are being held captive, we're being held in bondage, essentially I'm responsible for anyone who's asleep. So if I just get comfortable and I just accept that, that's actually a much lower frequency when you really think about it. Because what I'm doing is I'm saying, we'll make do. It'll be okay. Let's just think about positive things. But it's more than that. See, there has to be something that says, no, I am owning the freedom which is mine. We are sovereign beings, and we do have a responsibility, not just to those who are aware of this, but to all those who have no idea what their potential is. To the 8,640 people that starve to death every day. I mean, which, granted, I understand. I know that death is just a construct. It's a human construct, and I understand that energy is constant and it never ceases to exist. I also understand that money is nothing more than energy. And if that energy is constantly being withheld from us, and that is just coincidentally where we are, that's just the tool that we use to function here. So to transition, and I've heard this many times, it's as if they hold the people responsible, but they really don't consider what the situation is. If people are in a state where they're being lied to every day, who can? If you love somebody, and think about it, really, and I have to tell you, it does break my heart, and I'm one of them. So it breaks my heart personally and for other people, because you know what? You want to speak to the power of the human soul? They have lied to us every day for 1,038 days straight. That I have had a person in authority from the Treasury, from the IMF, from some section of a three-letter agency, somebody, and then on top of it, it's not even that person, it's that somebody lied to them every single day. And you know what I do every day? I believe them again. Now, at some point, I'm just curious, because you're talking about raising the frequency, and I just feel like, does it occur to anyone there, like, this is really abusive behavior? What right do we have to expect them to raise their frequency when we treat them like this? So I'm just curious, because you're the closest I've ever come to someone actually, involved in the process, and I really mean this with all humility. I'm not trying to. I mean, I am in a sense. I'm going to keep making noise about it, and I'm not going to back off, and I'm not going to get tired. I'm never going to give up, and I'm going to get more and more attention. I'm going to make more and more of a ruckus until it changes. But I'm doing it. It's not. The perception would be, oh, he's so aggressive, he's a loose cannon. Somebody said to me, I'm not. What I'm demonstrating is the same thing that you were talking about with those women who would come over and bring food in the neighborhood. I'm demonstrating the power, actually, of the divine feminine. I'm demonstrating the most natural human quality that exists. It just seems like they're missing it. The most natural thing all humans do is we have an innate desire to take care of one another. And when we see somebody being abused, it's our natural energy to want to take care of them, stand up for them. And I'm looking for them to stand up for us. I'm looking for them to do it just what they say they're going to do. But when I hear you talk about it, it's like, well, we should be talking softer, and it just sounds to me like they're just trying to satiate us and keep us in this kind of docile, dumbed down state. It's just what I feel when I get, as if because I'm excited, that's negative, that's too much. But that's not true. You know what? Everything you talked about today on this call, when you get back to check your email, you'll see. You talked about we're going to have to value business a different way. And you know what? I wrote a business theory on that I'm certain was given to me by the Galactics. Green Lantern business theory. I talk about the difference between valuing, uniting in business based on a common will and valuing your business practice based on the impact you have on your mission, instead of what is most prevalent here on this planet, which is business practice based on fear. You better do this or you'll lose your job. You better do this or how are you going to feed your kids? So, I wrote that 6 years ago. You know what? You were talking about the collective consciousness. And I wrote an article just yesterday, or maybe that was today, called Shine. So I'm hearing you, and I'm like, I am in exact agreement with the words you're saying. But there's something missing with the perception, I guess, that either on my end, and I could just be, I don't see how I'm off, because everything you said, like, we're on that. But I guess I just don't understand why they think, it sounds to me like, I just want you guys to just be quiet and shut up, and we're going to keep lying to you, and I want you to increase your vibration. at the same time. And so that's what I'm curious about. Do these conversations take place, or? And I know I just threw a lot at you. What I'm just trying to figure out is I'm trying to understand what the thought process is on this higher level, how they think it'll change. Yeah, sorry.
Let's just say that I'm sure you've experienced this. Have you ever, when you're very intense and focused on something, and it's like, you really want it. You really want it. You really want it. Like when I played our team, we wanted to win all the time. Wanted to win constantly win. We knew that, sometimes that wasn't possible. But do you ever notice relax about something that occupies a lot of your energy, and you relax yourself in more of a spiritual way, and you take a step back, and you look at everything from a different perspective, and not the one that you're usually accustomed to being involved with? In other words, for instance, you may look at this from the perspective of being lied to, and everybody has been. Okay, that's a given. But also you're looking at 150 years of vile corruption in every area of power on the planet. And every time you think you have it cleared out, another one pops up and causes problems. Every time you think you have a clean slate to go, another issue pops up. And you're looking at over 150 years of all kinds of corruption, manipulation in every walk of life on this planet, in every governmental agency, in every three-letter agency, of every banking institution. You're looking at total penetration of corruption across the planet. And they don't discuss that, and they don't like to. They don't like to bring that out. But the fact of the matter is, that's the case. So picture yourself when you've got a certain amount of people following something for a long time, and of course rumors and stuff, and ups and downs and disappointments, just like you said. And you have a situation where you're cleaning up an absolute vile corruption, where you peel the onion and it's moldy, and you peel it back and it's moldy, and you keep peeling it, keep peeling it, keep peeling it. And you at first you don't have enough people. You're outnumbered. And so you keep hacking away and hacking away and hacking away. And then you get people that are so anxious because so many things have been discussed that now it's overflow. It's gotten to be overkill. And no one knows anything anymore, and then just like you said, you get information from a source, and then you share it, and then it doesn't turn out right, and then you're back to that person getting more information. Okay, now you look at the fact of saying, like when I talk creative thought and being in a place where you're visualizing how you want things to be. Period. That's the power. They don't, most people don't identify with that because they're too consumed. When you become too consumed into something, what happens? When you're overly consumed with something.
All you do is think about that, and thus you create more and more of it. I totally understand.
Yes, and when you're so passionate, when you become super passionate about something, that energy is massive that you're sending into that vortex of that whole construct, the whole thing. Okay? And you want everybody to be happy. You want everybody to have this benefit. Period. And so do I. And I have for a long time. And then you come to the realization is that my time frame and the constructor's time frame is different. Say, it's different. And I think people think that these folks have all kinds of money and they aren't stressed out and they don't have really many problems and they look upon everybody else as little people. These people, some of them are lucky to have a roof over their head. They've worked on this just about their whole adult lives. They've sacrificed everything. They have, money. What's that? And no one knows that because it's never discussed. It's never discussed out there in the open. These people have sacrificed their families. They've sacrificed their brothers, their sisters, their moms, their dads. Thousands have died along the way, but will never be mentioned. But all for this, for the greater good of of everyone. This is what goes on and has been going on behind the scenes. When 5 guys are shot to death because they're trying to clear up a computer center that's sending out bogus information to interrupt a transference of money, no one hears about that. No one hears about these things. And so can you imagine now if anybody would believe it anyway? Okay. So you have this process that's been going on ever since 12 years ago with the Iraqi dinar currency, okay? Everybody knows that knows anything about the banking industry and about the Forex and about currencies, that currencies revalue. It's look at the thread. It's common. It happens on the planet. It's happened several times throughout the generations. So, you get currencies that revalue. If you look at these currencies, like the dinar and the dong, they've been bastardized for decades. They don't have any value to them because of the dark agenda went in there and screwed up the whole country and created a war that didn't need to be created. A lot of people died needlessly. And so what's happening and what's happened is that you have to revitalize that country and you have to reinstate their true value. That's not an easy thing to do, all right? And not only that, you have to do it with over 200 countries. And you have to get everybody in compliance and agreement. And that if you think that's easy, that takes years sometimes to get that accomplished. And then then you have to convince them not to worry about the dark agenda, not to worry about them coming after them, not to worry about their families being killed, not to worry about all that. Well, they're all powerful. Why would we want to go with you guys and not just stay with the fiat system? And that's gone on. Those conversations have happened repeatedly. And then at the last minute, everything's set. In the last minute, one country says, we've decided to change this, this, and this. Well, okay, so that means everybody else has to be in compliance and agree with that. So then you have to go through all of that stuff again. And these are some of the things and the roadblocks that have occurred. In the meantime, you have a pretty uninformed people out there who are getting information from different directions. And so what happens is this is what happens. You get people pissed, angry, upset because they keep getting lied to, because the information never comes to fruition. It never materializes, on anything that's ever been said. Some of it has, but it hasn't been out in the open. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the problem is it's lopsided because the outsiders don't know what it's taken to get to this point with this monetary change and shift on the planet, because there's so much rhetoric and there's so much garbage being spit out there that it becomes lost. It just becomes lost. So the fact is that you know this and others know it, that this is happening, and it's happening now. All right? You've gotten information that you've never gotten before, and you feel it and sense it, that it's at the tip of taking place. The current status of this whole condition is what I call it, is that tomorrow something is supposed to click. Tomorrow something is supposed to click. Now, is it going to? It's supposed to. Okay? And it's supposed to be a flashbang situation where the nation is preoccupied with something else. So they don't notice the transition of the monetary system. That's pretty much it.
Right.
There has to be a urge big enough going on so that the ones that are not awake don't know.
So they're not in shock by the right.
So probably that won't be a false flag. Something that distracts everybody properly.
Now, let me give you an example. Any fear out there that's being created, anybody talking about blowing up and bombs and this crap about North Korea and everything, let's put it this way. North Korea has been a puppet of the dark agenda for years, okay?
Right.
So they pull out whatever trump card they have left to sit there and fear the people, scare the people. Oh, we're going to have a nuclear war. Guy from the future said we'll have a nuclear war. California is going to be destroyed. Get out of California. But if you look through history, okay, we do have guardians, and we do have those that watch out for us, or we'd all been gone a long time ago. So the fact of the matter is that what we have is we have a negative energy that's going on, that's putting fear in everybody. It's not going to happen. This crap's not going to happen. And so people are getting worried and concerned and everything. There won't be a false flag. There will be a flashbang. And the flashbang is going to take the ones that are asleep. We'll all be preoccupied with that. And I've told people this before. Don't buy any property on the shorelines. Don't buy any property on the shorelines. Wait until things settle down, and then we'll have to implement restructuring and rebuilding. So there are changes coming to the planet. It's inevitability, but it's not man-created. It's not man-made. So
the flashbang has, okay, I know you can't say exactly what it is, otherwise you wouldn't be using code. But I do have a direct question. Does it have anything to do with Atlantis rising?
Does it have anything to do with what? No.
Not this early, right?
No.
Too early, right?
See, basically what's going to cause the changes on our planet is our sun. Our sun's going to cause these tides and changes and swells and tsunamis coming in. Most of the shorelines, there'll be some earthquakes. Of course, there's a lot of earthquakes now, but they're nothing, catastrophic. But there's things going on the planet that's building up to the crescendo of where the oceans are going to flood the shorelines, just like if you fill a bucket up too high, it's going to slosh around, and that's basically the best description I can give of the oceans of planet Earth. I mean, the Chinese have built ships that they have built offshore in a facility just in case. The reason the Chinese have built so many ghost cities is so that they have room for people to stay. The Agarthans, they have facilities that they've made available for the surface population. So yes, there's going to be...
Does that have anything to do with what's supposed to be the flashbang tomorrow? That's my question.
Here's the philosophy, and I think Tank will pick up on this real quick too. Philosophy is we release the wealth. Mm-hmm. The people become happy. Okay? Those of us who are awake, it's our responsibility to keep some of us in line, so to speak, to not get too carried away. Mm-hmm. Because like I said, if you've never had it and you have it, things happen. So the matter is that release the money, which is right now is slated to happen this week. The money is supposed to be released this week. Exchanges are supposed to take place. This flashbang is supposed to happen tomorrow. Right? Now that is the most current, to-the-bone information that I have. Okay? Now, now I've learned this, as well, I'm sure you have too, Tank, is that that's not etched in stone because I've had it changed so many times it's unreal. But that's the current game plan. And notice I'm not saying what is it, period.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going into detail about it, but I'm giving you a superficial.
I won't even ask. Yep.
I'm giving you a superficial. Make the people happy. Release the wealth. It has been on the planet forever, okay? And it is now time to release the wealth to the human race. Those of us who are awake are ready. Do not fear us for getting carried away and doing nuts, crazy things, period. So it's time to release the wealth. It's time to release it, period. And it's time to get it out to the human race, and don't worry that things are going to go haywire. Why do you think they've got military scattered all over the country, and they've been doing it for years? They've got them deployed everywhere. It's to keep everybody safe. That's basically the bottom line. Let's put it this way. If we were all supposed to end up in FEMA camps, we'd have been there a year ago, 2 years ago.
That's right.
So, the doom and gloom, we got to stay away from the doom and gloom because it's totally the opposite of what's getting ready to take place. It's no doom and gloom at all. All right? Yeah, there's people that are concerned. People are concerned about the unknowns. You're not going to know until you go. And there's going to probably be some stupid things that people do. But come on. You don't have a crystal ball, and you can't predetermine everything. I think that those who are awake and anybody that tries to mess around with the money is going to get burned. That's all. It's no big deal. That's open. That's out there in the open. It's been discussed before. The system is transparent enough, so that's the current. That's the current thinking right now, and that's the current agenda, is to release the wealth to the human race, and I mean to the awakened ones, so that they can, just like you said, Tank, we're responsible for each other. We all are responsible for each other. So if we've got a couple of people that act out of line that we're aware of, we got to help them stay in line and help them, take care of themselves and make sure that they're protected during this whole transition. So that's like I said the security industry is going to go bonkers. You want a job, go in the security industry.
Who wants a job if they're getting unlimited wealth? Yeah. Well, I in hearing you talk, about these things too, like you mentioned Mother Teresa, for example. You're talking about people dedicated to service. And I don't really, Mother Teresa was miserable, first of all. She said in 50 years she didn't feel connected to God, even towards the end of her life. So, I look at examples like that. That is not people, I think there's a misconception that people think, well, a life of service means, sacrifice and, you have to live impoverished, but it's just not true. People are going to have unlimited wealth, and the very first human they should take care of, the very first humanitarian project is themselves. And I'll tell you, I look at this and I realize, it really is such a joy to be able to, and I agree with you. I think it's a great point. This is a family. I mean, they have great studies on the mitochondria and Eve, and they trace everybody back to, one woman. So we know that's true. Everyone is related, and the difference between the whitest, an albino and, the darkest African is like a teaspoon of melanin. So these petty differences to me they're just silly. But you have these forces in place still, and I got to be honest, I was a little taken aback by that. That like we're still in a place where the Cabal has controlling positions, but then you made a good point that they're ingrained in everything. So I can even appreciate, okay, there's going to have to be a level of forgiveness and people that want to do right, that have been previously members of something dark. You know what? We have to give them room to to repent, so to speak. And I agree with that too. I agree with that. I do think it's people's choice, though. I think that's the very nature of being free. And I do think this is about freedom. Because at the end of the day, what will free people's consciousness and the entire frequency of the planet, what will make it possible for everything you said, is obviously transparency on some level. Now, I think that it's going to be very dark for a lot of people, and a lot of people aren't going to be able to handle it. But I do think, some level of inclusion, allowing us to, get a feel for what's actually happening, to stop the perpetual lies, like you said. And, like you were saying with these, I can't express enough how much I really do appreciate the amount of work that has gone into negotiate all these terms. And at this point, I don't expect anybody to come to the table at this point and try to change the deal, because I think the whole world is just so ready to go. And so I was just, when you're talking, I was just saying about that, because the energy created, the frequency created, I think there is just such a level that they underestimate the power of the human spirit, because these same people have forgiven and kept hope alive. And even now, I've been doing everything I can to make as much noise as I can, because I said I would, and because I really think there's a key component missing in freeing the human race, which is the human race, or human people. They're not included in these decisions. We're not consulted. No one seems to really be in touch with the experience of what people go through in the damage that has been done in their lives. I mean, every day. I spoke to a woman this morning. And she said to me, Tank, I'm teetering on disaster. So I said to her, you are not teetering on disaster. You're teetering on greatness. You just feel like it's disaster. But you're so close. You're right on the verge of breaking through. Now, so every time I turn around, I'm trying to get that mentality to realize, for people to realize and be empowered to make decisions in this next age, not just be controlled, but to be empowered to create a new world. I mean, I even have an organization called Create Change, and that's the whole idea. And I refer to the people in that organization as creators, because I can see what we're going to do. We have the opportunity to create the world we've always dreamed of. We have that opportunity, and I'm with you. I'm doing my best to appeal to those who are making these decisions, because to me, the best weapon against the Cabal right now is us. Because for us to continue to be, and let's face it, the other thing is that it's not just intel we're getting. There's very public witnesses to this happening. Zimbabwe just announced the mechanism, and they actually published it in their Gazette about the mechanism to back their currency with gold. So everybody's carrying around, whatever their notes are, it's all gold backed. I mean, right now.
Yeah.
So we have that.
What do you think?
I feel like it just has to go. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What do you think comes next?
Well, I think release should come next. I've been waiting on it. So I'm expecting it. So I'm with you. And I appreciate you. I can tell that you are being genuine in your appeal, to say it's just time. And I really, just for the record, that's what I'm doing. I'm in line with what everything you're saying. It's just this. There needs to be an elevation in the energy of the people to move forward into this next age.
Exactly.
They have to believe that this part, this constant repetition and of lies and deceit and dishonesty, and really what it's done is it's fostered a terrible relationship of lack of with no trust whatsoever. So what happens is we're about to be, we know that there's, forces in control on some level, the elite forces, elite beings, whatever it is, but they're not better than us. And I think that's a perception. Now, if I were to take them and put them in a cell, drug them, abuse them, starve them, I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated if maybe they're able to just rise above it. But if we erase their memories that they were able to rise above it, could they? I don't think they could. They are able to do, hold a vibration or do whatever because they're conscious of their experiences and who they are. And like you said, all these people that we don't, we've had our history erased. I mean, that in itself is just, to take away somebody's history, to take away, and all of our history is a lie. I mean, it is just, and I know you know this, but I just think there's some kind of disconnect, when you're directly involved. It's kind of like with us and people who aren't awake at all. It's like there's a disconnect. It's like it's hard to stay at that frequency and fuss and care about things like, what the Kardashians are doing and what's going on TV, because it just doesn't matter to us because we realize, look, I'm in the midst of a war right now for my freedom and yours. And someone has to be an advocate for that freedom. So someone has to stand up and be like, it's not okay that we're slaves. And I really do think that the highest vibration is it's not getting mad because they didn't perform. That's not the point. But what there has to be is some level of saying, I am no longer satisfied to live life on this planet that is mine as a slave. Like you said, I don't want to have to work for a living because I was given a living by God. Exactly. So if I look at this from a higher purpose, from the will of God, from the purpose of God, and I look at what is God's intent for us to be. Now, he said, I made you in the likeness and image of your creator. So the likeness would be like the physical construct, and the image would be likened unto the spiritual construct. So if we had that same creative nature, like you said, and we're able to create anything we want, I mean, we're able to do that. And all we have to do is change 8,000 people to have that be their consciousness. That's all. I'll tell you what. I swear on my life, I could get 8,000 people tomorrow to start doing this 3 times a week. I guarantee you I can do that now. But the problem is because they've stripped us of all our resources, and it's a constant situation, if they just allow, I just really hope that, I'm appealing to them. I know this is not you, Mr. Ray. I know you don't have this control. but I am appealing to them. I'm trying. I really think there's some disconnect with the human experience that they're not appreciating. That somehow, on some level, they think that we should raise our vibration. After that, I don't think they understand or appreciate how important it is for humans to hear the truth, or how important it is for the development of love, at least with our current understanding, to know that you're actually an advocate for our well-being. Because so much of what they're done, with so much of this attitude, it's just so similar to the Cabal. It's basically, it feels almost exactly the same, right? They're lying to us repeatedly. And I understand they're trapping the Cabal and they're setting the Cabal up, and I understand negotiations have gone on, and there's things we couldn't know for the safety of everything. But is there a threat right now anywhere on the planet that is as big as starvation, as cancer, as diabetes, as coronary artery disease? There's not one. There's not one single threat that can be taken out at an exchange center, or blowing up a city, that compares to the damage being done by the lack of performance on their part. There's nothing. So I have a hard time with that one. So all the countries who, yeah, go ahead.
The biggest threat on the planet has always been only one threat, and that threat is to keep the dark forces back in the. They already did it to one planet in our solar system, and we will not allow it to happen again.
It ain't happening here.
So it's just not going to happen. And we will give our lives to the last man standing to stop that from happening and harming humanity any further than they've already harmed humanity. And start respecting humanity and lifting up their hearts and their understanding that we are a collective source of energy and power, and that we are awake. And we are ready to take the next step of responsibility for the planet and for humanity. You just release the wealth. Release it. You'll be amazed on what will happen. Now, I will say that, and I'm sure you're aware of this, and it's got to educate people to know that there's still going to be little bad guys around. They're going to be in the little city municipalities, and we're going to deal with them. We got to deal with them. Okay, so you're a leader. You've got tremendous amount of energy, so you're one of them that's going to be taking on a tremendous amount of responsibility, and it won't faze you. You just got to make sure you keep yourself healthy and happy.
Yes, indeed. I'll definitely do that.
But we're just on the edge here of this thing happening. I don't know about you, but I'm tired. I am real tired.
I'm not tired at the moment. I mean, like literally, I'm sure that after this happens, and I think about this all the time. I think about this all the time. I have, all these lies have become our lies, So because I believe them. So every time they lie, I lie. Like what happened to you, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And the way I'm sure you're not used to it. So
no.
I'm sure it stung a little bit. Now for me, I'm so used to them being like that. I'm so used to that happening. I have let go of any semblance or concern about my image. I do not care. What I care about solely is the mission and getting to the other side of this and anything I can do. So I have literally just people in my life, friends, family, love, anyone, whatever they think is fine. I know what I'm doing is for their best interest.
See, your love for the human race drives you.
Indeed.
Your love for the human race drives you.
Yes, sir.
That's a good motivator. Good motivator. And it doesn't bother me. Hell, I've been doing it for 3 decades. So, it's not an issue anymore. Hasn't been for a long time. So, but what we have here is we have a relinquishing release. And then we see what happens. You know, we wash our minds of the negativities. We stay on a positive light no matter what's thrown at us. And because if we change our thoughts, we change the situation. If we become angry and irritable and angry and combative, we change the situation. That can wipe out, it wipes out the wonderful, loving meditation and everything, because if you change that thought process and that thought pattern, you've got to sustain an semblance, and you've got to be in that thought process all the time. You've got to be in it. You can't just do it intermittently. You've got to be in the thought process all the time. That's why it's been so difficult to get that many people together and to have that enacted, because it's hard for them to understand that they've got to be in that all the time. And at first, it takes a while to adjust to that and to get that, to have it to be effective. So it may seem that you can, we've spooled together over 100, 200, 300,000 people before. And it's one thing getting the people together. It's another thing for them to understand, to actually be able to stay in that energy, to stay in it, and not become angry afterwards or upset or have something derail you or cause you to become combative or something. It's a whole new way of being.
Well, Mr. Rand, that's why I don't think, I think it's counterproductive, even in this sense, to tell people, you're going to be managing money. I really don't. One, I don't agree with that. People aren't going to be managing money. You're going to have whole accounting firms who are going to manage money of people that you trust, and you're going to pay them very well, and they're going to tell you what's going on. And what you're going to do is pursue creative endeavors, as you have a passive income that is literally inexhaustible, and be allowed to go and pursue things and create things and come up with new ways and better ways to do things, right? Now, one of the things that I have been advocating for a long time, and I tried to introduce this years ago with my own company, and got kind of taken out, but it's the revaluation of the way we measure success. Like you said, now, right now in the current paradigm, all success is measured in money. Now, once money starts getting distributed and people start having money is no longer the same status symbol. Everybody can have what they want. So what becomes the new standard is the impact of your message, the value of the way you do business, the authenticity of your creativity, right? All of these new experiences become valuable, and people can, if more businesses and companies start thinking about it that way, instead of just thinking about how I'm going to manage the money, because it's not about managing the money. To be honest.
I understand that. What I'm saying and addressing is that people who have never had it and have never followed any kind of path, who have had it, don't know how to do it. So they need to have basic understanding and knowledge of how, and they have to be taught. So that's where I play in and say managing money, and that's for the people to get articulate, is for the people who have never had it. They don't know that arena. They don't know the interactions that they have to be involved with. So they're going to be managing their wealth, and they're going to learn how to manage their wealth, and that's what everybody does. And that those people who have the wealth and then will have it again have learned that. But there's a lot of people in the groups that will be receiving wealth that have never had it. It's just, they just don't know they don't know what to do. So it's like helping. It's basically, you have a tractor, and the tractor's on your property, and you have some friends come over, right? And this will be the new paradigm. And you tell your friends, you say, look, guys, don't mess with my new tractor. It's very, very detailed and intricate. You can get hurt. I'm warning you now. Leave it alone. Don't mess with it. Okay? So you, as a responsible landowner and tractor owner, say that to them, and they say, oh, okay. And then the next thing you know, they're dinking with it, and one falls and cuts his arm. Okay? Well, you warned them. You verbally warned them. So it was his responsibility to follow your wishes to not mess with that tractor. Today, in the old paradigm, if that happened, you'd get sued.
Sure.
I mean, you'd be sued. It'd be ridiculous. But see, being responsible for ourselves and each other is out of respect of not harming another and not harming the environment or another person. And the fact of the matter is that you told old Bill, don't mess with the tractor, but Bill messed with the tractor. Guess what? Bill hurt himself because he didn't listen to you. And Bill takes the responsibility because he did injure himself. He says, you know something? You're right. I should have listened to you. And if you're a good guy, you'll say, hey, Bill, don't worry about it. We'll take care of that type thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
but
sure.
That's the interaction that we're going to start experiencing, and I'm excited about it because it'll be it's a whole new paradigm, a whole new existence. And it's not about the money, and you know that, but it's going to help a lot of people. Money is energy. It's meant to be flowing. It's meant to be moving all the time, and it's not meant to be hoarded. These guys have, for it seems like forever. So, I think it's really, I tell you, because just hearing you talk, I feel like, my partner, Susan Babcock, and we talk about this stuff all the time. And we always talk about it's a matter, it's getting people over hoarding money, which is what our predecessors have done, right? They hoarded money away and they, allowed humanity to stay impoverished, versus distributing money. And really having an active role because the money it'll just keep coming. It'll just be like you described it this way, just an endless flow of money. So distributing money judiciously and appropriately in a way that won't hurt people, obviously, right? That's something that has to be done. But also in this new, it's a new paradigm of business, right? Because you can't even almost call it a business anymore, right? You're
because
right.
Everything that is being conducted, business is all based on money. Well, money is no longer the goal. It's no longer the factor. It's like, it's interesting. But you could take I think about this with the houses. Every house I buy for my family or something, I'll set up a fund that will pay the utilities and the food, and it'll be a self-sustaining property, right? And you can essentially do that with everything. Everything is self-sustaining and self-generating and generating the cash, or has the cash flow there to take care of it indefinitely, just based on the way this is. And I think about all these different things. So, and even when it comes to these, let's call it the first 3 months. In reality, this big fear, the first 3 months, I would have to imagine somewhere in this process, this has been talked about, that where you're going to see the biggest flow and the biggest, pop is in these first 3 months, because that's when it's going to be brand new to people. They're going to be very excited. They're going to make most of their big purchases in those first 3 months are going to happen. The biggest flow, like people buying multiple cars, multiple houses, a lot of that's going to happen immediately. No matter what anybody says, that's going to happen. But in that, I think that's in part why President Trump today announced that they were going to repatriate $4 trillion, right? Because then that way when this money starts showing up in the system, it makes sense, right? Oh, that's where the money came from the repatriation and the $250 billion deal he just signed, trade deal he signed with China. We're on the upswing, and Donald Trump's a hero, right? But the reality, right, is all those things, that damage is so negligible. Because when they're done with that, the damage that's been that you were talking about before with like sudden wealth syndrome, where people, they get money and they blow through it and they don't know how to manage it. A lot of times that happens because they're trying to take care of everybody and they can't. This is kind of the opposite. You can take care of everybody, but you got to do it in a way that doesn't make them, I guess, hate you. And you also, if people have addictive personalities, I guess a different, fear altogether. But I just think that these fears are overplayed a little bit.
You have to be responsible for it, and the way you distribute it. That's all. That's pretty simple comprehension for people. You just have to be responsible and seek out knowledge to help you become better with it. And I think for the most part, with a couple of bumps here and there, which is life anyway, that people will do fine. I don't see any huge turmoil or anything. Yeah, people are going to buy things. So what? They should. If they want to buy things, let them buy things.
Right.
They've been suppressed for so long, it's unreal. If people want to buy a boat, they want to buy cars, houses, whatever. That's fine. And you're right. They're trying to justify the influx of the massive amounts of money with the $4 trillion, and then they're going to find some more, and they're going to say this and they say that, and That's where the money's coming from, and the economy. And you can tell with Trump talking about, the economy's been the best it's ever been, and blah, 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 and it's growing more, and it's going to get better and better and better, and the job market's going to explode, and blah, blah, blah. It's all being set up. It's all being set up. So.
Well, and you know what else I think, and I'm curious what the thoughts are in the conversation about this is, people learn through trial and error. It's just a natural state. Particularly with, I don't know. I mean, I guess everyone's like this to a certain extent. Someone could tell you a different way of doing something, and they could be right, and we'll still do it our way, because to really learn it, we have to be allowed to fail. The freedom to fail, to me, without it being a catastrophic loss. You want to talk about increasing the vibration? It almost seems counterintuitive, but the reality is, if I have the freedom to take a risk on something and try something no one's ever tried and fail miserably, that is freedom. Just think about that you can make a mistake and it's okay. You can try again. That to me is what's so exciting. And we talk about this a lot about when we're going to support people's, if they want to, have a business and they want to support it. They want to have a business. And the way it's currently constructed, in the West anyways, is you have to have this detailed business model. And then it's really so not creative, right? Because you're just following the business model. And then if something changes, you're kind of, I'm following my business model. But in the East, they don't do that. They have a more adaptive business model. It's kind of like, we have an idea. That's what's exciting to me, is that you could take somebody with just a great idea and they have no idea how to make it happen, and just fund them and allow them to bang through that process. That is so exciting. That's the most exciting part of being a human being, is going through this, the creative process to develop an idea and to have that freedom. Look at all the amazing projects, funding, all these different inventions that didn't come to life because of money. And all that goes away. All that goes away when they release this tonight. It's all gone. Tomorrow, whatever it is, whatever the mechanism is that releases it. Now that to me is what is, if the focus is there, if that's the focus, and there's some level of appreciation for, if the frequency of the vibration is important, right? And if the Cabal is feeding on, loose, right, fear. Imagine if you took away that one fear from people. Listen, from now on, it's okay if you fail. It's okay. It's not gonna wipe your family out. No one's gonna starve. You're gonna be okay. Like we'll fund you this way, and then when you fail, it's okay. If it doesn't work out, we'll help you out. We'll give you a development team, and we'll work it out, and we'll give you more money. How empowering is that? That alone is the reason why the people right now, the sovereign people of the planet Earth, why they are the most powerful weapon to ensure the Cabal isn't and is not able to come back into power. And that's all it takes.